The ground was still burning when she asked the only question that mattered. We were family. Why? He leaned down close enough to feel her breath and told her to work it out in the afterlife. Then he shoved her into the dirt with his boot, the way a man discards something already used up. Burn the body, he ordered. Leave nothing behind, not even ashes. The man giving that order was her lover. Somewhere behind the world, gears turned, and the woman who died that evening was not finished yet. The Angel Guild took the contracts nobody else would touch, and the men on that list always begged first. He swore he would give up anything at all to live. The man in black had already been paid far more. The bowstring drew back in the violet dark. Payment worth more than a life meant the life was forfeit. Across the whole continent, they called her Guildmaster, an Angel, and a Reaper in the very same breath. Her name was Kyla Angel, and until that evening, she never once imagined she would die this cheaply. They always said a Reaper could not be killed. Standing there with a blade in her chest, she learned otherwise. The blonde man watching her fall through the red sky was Ian Angel, her only lover, and her executioner. He turned his back while she was still asking why, and he never intended to answer that question. Water closed over her face. Maybe this was punishment arriving at last, dressed in roses and iron chains. She was born in the slums and never learned her parents' names. Every day of her life had been a fight. She had survived all of it, only for it to end like this, under the one hand she had trusted completely. Still, she had walked across enough corpses to admit it was a fitting sentence for someone like her. Fire took the world apart around her, and one last apology went out to a woman named Emma. She had wanted to see that gentle face again someday, but she was fairly sure hell had other arrangements. Instead of hell, there was warm sunlight, gilded wallpaper, and a very small child shouting a name at her. "Wake up!" the child demanded. "Leah is hungry." Something remarkably heavy landed square on her chest. The girl bounced clean off the bed with a shriek loud enough to strip the paint from the walls. She sat up, gasping. A heartbeat ago there had been dirt and blood. Now there was a canopy and a chandelier. She had died. She was completely certain of it. Yet this body felt light, and nothing hurt anywhere. Rachel, the blonde girl said, tilting her head and studying her far too closely for comfort. Who exactly was this child? She reached out to lift the girl off her chest the way anyone would. The child did not move. 3 years old at most, and these arms could barely shift her an inch. Her muscles shook from the effort. This was absurd. She had once carried grown men across rooftops. Whoever owned this body had clearly never lifted anything heavier than a teacup in her entire life. Then she caught sight of the mirror standing across the room, and every thought in her head stopped. The woman staring back at her was a complete stranger. Brown hair, green eyes, somebody else entirely. She slapped herself hard enough to sting. It could not be. Ian had betrayed her, and she had died for it. "Don't hit yourself," the child scolded. "You'll get a boo-boo." "No dream, then." She was awake in another woman's skin. "Calm down, Kyla. Act normal, gather information, raise no suspicion. Fall apart later when nobody is watching." "I'm not a kid," the girl announced. "I'm Amelia." She said it like a title. It probably was one. A wooden box of colored blocks sat waiting on the floor, so her name in this life was Rachel. Small hands whipped a cloth away with all the flourish of a street magician revealing a miracle. "Let's play walk the dog," the child proposed brightly. "You hold the leash and I will be the doggy." "Absolutely not," she said. Where on earth had a girl this small picked up an idea like that? Nobody ever played it with her, the child complained. There were laws about that sort of thing, she explained. Something else then, and something far more entertaining. The girl's entire face lit up at the offer. While the child chattered happily, the assassin's eyes were already moving methodically around the room. Silk wallpaper, carved furniture, a chandelier worth a year of wages. A count's estate at the very least. A small hand tugged insistently at her skirt, and the whole careful assessment came apart at once. The girl's clothes did not match the room in the slightest, so this body belonged to the child's maid. Except the child herself looked poorly cared for. Scruffy, even. In a house this rich, that made no sense. She switched to formal address and suggested breakfast. Safer to be a dull servant than an interesting one. The door shook under a heavy fist. "Rachel Brown," a woman shouted. "I know perfectly well you are in there." Rachel Brown. So that was the name of the woman whose entire life she had just inherited by accident. It's the old hag, the girl squealed, hiding in her skirts, delighted and genuinely terrified at once. Let us see exactly who the child means by that, she thought, and reached calmly for the door handle. The door creaked open on a woman in severe black who stood far straighter than any furniture in the room. Judging by the cut of that uniform, this was the headmaid. She was already several minutes into being furious. Countess Conrad wrote your recommendation letter herself, the woman snapped, and this is how you repay her. How could a girl this lazy look after the prince and princess? The prince and the what, exactly? Her pulse struck once, very hard, against her ribs. She had misheard that. She must have misheard it. Prince Edwin vanished while you were gone, the headmaid said. Go and find His Highness immediately. A palace nanny. In the Ventrum Empire, of every single place a wandering soul could possibly have landed. Let's go find my brother, the girl sang, seizing her hand and hauling her bodily toward the door. The Ventrum Empire had ruled the entire eastern continent for 300 unbroken years. And she had come back from the dead inside its imperial palace of all the places in the world. Rachel, are you listening? The headmaid demanded. She blamed a headache. It was easier than the truth. The headmaid pushed the heavy door wide, her patience visibly running out somewhere near the hinges. Then get moving, the woman said, and stop wasting my time with trivial matters. The door slammed. The little princess dragged at the curtain, entirely confident that she knew where her brother was hiding. Focus, she told herself firmly. The woman she had become came with a name, a station, and a set of duties. Rachel Brown. The uniform said nanny. The soft hand said somebody who had never truly worked a day. A minor noble family, most likely, since that surname was the kind a commoner would carry without shame. Don't worry, the child declared. Just follow Leah. Her faith in herself was absolutely unshakable. But should she really be babysitting right now? She ought to be out there hunting Ian down instead. An unwelcome memory surfaced. Sunlight, warm grass, and his voice insisting that what they had was real. The other assassins called her a cold-blooded wench. Those fools, he said, have no idea how kind you are. His sweet Kyla. He had held her exactly like that and meant absolutely nothing by any of it. Ian. The name still tasted like iron in her mouth. Then a very small voice cut straight through it. She looked down and found Amelia staring up at her, lower lip already trembling dangerously. Why are you crying? She asked. Are you hurt? The wail that answered shook the entire corridor. How exactly did one calm a crying child? Her considerable training contained no entry whatsoever for this. Then an older memory arrived, warm and entirely unwanted. Someone had once held her in exactly that way. So she copied it as best she could, one awkward hand patting a small blonde head over and over. She did not realize her own face had gone wet until the child stopped crying long enough to notice. Don't cry, Your Highness, she said. The girl asked very seriously whether she would stop crying too. Yes, she answered the pale ceiling above them. I promise I will not cry either. Okay, the girl beamed. Then Leah stops as well. Neither of them knew how badly that promise would be tested. Slipping out of this palace would be simple enough. Finding Ian afterward was the genuine problem. This body had never trained for combat either, so she would go on playing nanny a little while longer. You're so tall, Rachel, the child laughed. Just wait, Ian. Distance has never meant anything to me. Whatever reason he had for that betrayal, she had already stopped caring about hearing it explained. She would never forgive him. That much had been settled before she even opened her eyes in this world. Still, why was the prince's palace this shabby? The grounds were almost completely deserted. Edwin Anaxinian Ventrum, third prince, was the only son born to Emperor Cabellius III and his third consort. His mother, Idis Lionel, was sold abroad by her country as a hostage and died 3 years ago, bearing Amelia. The two children had no supporters anywhere in the empire, and the palace treated them as though invisible. No wonder Rachel's memories of them were so thin. Servants of powerless masters always suffer the most. She would gather everything she needed on Ian, then make her escape. That was the entire plan. A narrow, overgrown path led toward a dark gap in the outer wall. Had the boy really slipped out alone? Give it back, a child's voice shouted somewhere ahead, cracking apart with pure furious frustration. That was Ed's voice. She set the princess down carefully on the grass and promised to return shortly. Please wait right here, Your Highness. Then she cleared a wall no grown man in the palace could have cleared. She landed without a sound, one hand touching the earth for balance, and raised her eyes. Why don't you come and get it yourself? One of them jeered. Older boys, well-dressed, circling him slowly. There was no mistaking him. Blonde, blue-eyed, 7 years old at most. The third prince himself. One of them shoved him hard enough to put him flat on the ground in front of everyone. Too early to step in, she judged coolly. Better to wait until the boy started crying for help. Then she saw his small fist close in the dirt. He had no intention of calling for anyone at all. It's mine, he shouted, and went in swinging at boys nearly twice his height and weight. He hit the dirt a second time, considerably more tenacious than she had given him credit for. A deal is a deal, Your Highness, the tallest one said. As a prince, you really ought to know better. They had won the item in a fair wager, he explained, so taking it back would make a prince into a rat. You tricked me, the boy cried. It was a scam. His wrists were pinned before the sentence finished. Then let us make another bet, the older boy offered, and closed a hand around the prince's throat. Your hand, perhaps, since there is little else you can offer. That was precisely enough of that. The older boy left the ground entirely and met a wall he had never once seen coming. What are you doing out here, Your Highness? She crouched beside him in the shade of the tree. He stared up at her, stunned, and said her name like a question. Nobody had ever come for him before. She turned to face the others and held out one open palm, waiting without any particular hurry. Give it back while I am still asking nicely, she suggested. Not one of them moved a muscle. The boys glanced sideways at one another. The word trouble was clearly forming somewhere among them. Their leader smiled instead. Every maid in this particular palace came from a family that mattered to nobody. Miss, we won it fairly in a bet, he said with perfect courtesy and no fear whatsoever. And now His Highness is attempting to take it back from us by simple force. That is no different from theft, is it? Behind her, the prince said absolutely nothing in his own defense. Very well, she answered. Then I shall make a bet with you as well. The boy's smile faltered slightly. If you won the item in a wager, you cannot possibly mind losing it exactly the same way. She was still smiling pleasantly while she said it, and that was the part that unsettled them. And what will you wager, miss? You hardly own anything as valuable as His Highness's bracelet. My hand, she said. A bracelet is entirely useless without a hand left to wear it upon. That would be a fair price, wouldn't you say? The boy's easy confidence flickered for the first time. The youngest son of a count, attendant to the second prince, being openly challenged by a servant girl. Very well, he said. I will make you regret betting that hand. He set 3 cups down on the table. Behind her, Edwin had gone completely pale. Was this woman honestly going to be all right? A ball, a box, and a flat surface. The oldest trap in every gutter she had ever worked a job in. Let's settle it with Monty, he offered. Oh, but perhaps a noble lady wouldn't know such a common game. 3 cups, 1 ball, and a game played on street corners by people with nothing left to lose. She had played it constantly with the other assassins, usually for money and occasionally for fingers. I know the rules perfectly well. Edwin tried to haul her back from the table and entirely failed. Do you want the bracelet returned or not, Your Highness? He did want it. He wanted it very badly. Then please trust me. She squeezed the boy's small hand once and knelt down at the table. Don't blame me when you lose that pretty little hand. A cup lifted. The red ball sat underneath. 3 chances, he explained. Guess the ball correctly twice and the bracelet belongs to you. His hands moved genuinely fast. Fast enough to fool a child, at any rate, which was clearly the point. She was not watching his hands at all. She was watching every single other thing in that courtyard. The cups came to rest with a clack, and a long silence stretched out across the grass. So which cup is hiding the ball, miss? He asked it the way a man asks a question he already answered. The one on the right, she said, without troubling herself to look down at the table. Lucky guess. The ball rolled free across the wood, and Edwin made a small sound of pure disbelief. It's a little early to celebrate your victory, miss. The 3 cups began to move again, slower this time. This round took considerably longer. This round also involved a second pair of hands. She brought her palm down flat on the table hard enough to rattle it. You are cheating. You with the orange hair, show me your left hand. He swore blind that he had never moved from that spot. She stood and walked toward him without hurrying, and the whole courtyard went extremely quiet. She had his collar in her fist before he managed to take a single step backward. One sharp yank, and the hand he had been hiding came out into the daylight for everyone to see. A red rubber ball hit the ground and rolled away. The boy had been crouching right there the entire time. While the cups moved, the ball was flicked to him on purpose, then tucked neatly behind his back, and passed back again at the exact moment she was invited to make her choice. Extra balls all along. That was the whole trick. Cheap and reliably effective against children. One was slipped under a cup she had not picked, which meant every single guess was wrong before she spoke. Behind her, the other boys turned red. Their friend had been quietly cheating them for months as well. Fine. Take the bracelet. It landed on the table. Did you use these same tricks on His Highness? Typical street thug behavior, she said. He told her to be grateful he was letting her off and to get lost. He never finished the sentence. She had already closed the distance between them completely. Letting me off? Fraud committed against the imperial family is high treason, punishable by execution. Don't use petty little tricks to do things you have no way of taking responsibility for afterward. So what if he's a prince, the boy spat. He's a powerless one. Edwin heard every word of that clearly. Even so, she answered very quietly, a royal is still a royal, and that is not a small thing. Who do you imagine matters more to this palace? The empire's prince or some noble's brat of a son? They left in a hurry, dragging one another along, and the courtyard emptied out within seconds. Just wait, he called back. I will remember your face. He served the second prince, and that house forgets nothing. And who exactly are you to threaten me? She picked the bracelet up off the table and turned it over. The orange-haired boy stayed behind, wringing his hands. He had only done what Gale told him to do. You should be apologizing to His Highness, she told him, rather than standing here apologizing to me. He bowed so low that his hair very nearly brushed against the grass at the prince's feet. He swore, with his fist clenched at his collar, that he would never disrespect the prince again. I will let it slide this once, Edwin said, but if it happens again, I won't be nearly this forgiving. Understood? The boy fled before the answer had entirely finished leaving his own mouth. Well, that was quite the show. A voice drifted over from beyond the iron fence. A man in a very fine coat stood among the yellow flowers, smiling steadily at her back. Those hand tricks took swindlers years to master. A noble's nanny had read them in a matter of seconds. And on top of that, she had cleared a wall that would comfortably defeat most fully grown men. That woman, he thought, turning the idea over slowly in the dark. That woman reminds me of her. My lord, his attendant called, running across the lawn. You vanished suddenly, and I was worried. Am I truly someone you need to worry about? They were, after all, deep inside enemy territory. All right, he agreed pleasantly. The smile never once reached those yellow eyes. My lord, the attendant said carefully, are you still searching for Kyla Angel after all this time? I told you never to speak that name aloud. The air around the two of them noticeably cooled. His attendant bowed immediately. Forgiveness was not something anyone could count on in that household. A short distance away, a nanny took a prince's hand and felt the weight of eyes on her back. Someone had definitely been watching her. She was almost entirely certain of it. Almost. She turned to Edwin, fully expecting some thanks for saving the day. She had misjudged the situation. What was that about? He demanded. Who told you to butt in? She stared at him, genuinely lost. Fine. Apologize, humor the child, and move on with the afternoon. She bowed to him properly. Liar, he said. You're not sorry at all. He had been told she was far too sick to go outside today. It was only a light headache, she replied. Thank you sincerely for your concern, Your Highness. He kept on looking at her. Something behind that small, stubborn expression had quietly shifted. Something about you, he said slowly, is different from before. She felt the floor tilt slightly. Her whole body went still. Had a 7-year-old boy genuinely just seen straight through her? What do you mean by that, Your Highness? She kept her voice absolutely level while she asked it. You're uglier than usual. The relief and the insult arrived at almost exactly the same moment. Did I do something to offend you, Your Highness? Her pleasant smile did not waver in the slightest. Emma recommended you, he said, but I don't trust you. You're on the old hag side like everyone else. Hired thanks to a recommendation letter from Countess Conrad. The head maid had said exactly that. Emma Conrad. It could not possibly be the same Emma. It absolutely could not be, and yet. And what sort of nanny was Rachel Brown to have collected this many enemies inside 2 short weeks? The boy folded his arms tightly, still watching her sideways, still deciding what she actually was. That attendant's hands were slow compared to real swindlers, she said. Nothing to feel bad about. I did not fall for his trick, he shouted, fuming. She seriously considered smacking him for it. You know, Your Highness. He glanced up at her, immediately wary of whatever came next. What? The way you choose to see other people usually says far more about you than it says about them. Are you insulting a prince? No. She simply wanted him to grow into a genuinely good person one day. After all, she said, crouching down until she met his eyes properly, I happen to be your nanny. I hate people like you the most. He snatched the bracelet out of her hand and ran for the palace. Out on the open grass, he slowed to a stop, frowning. Why on earth had she helped him at all? For weeks she had looked the other way whenever he was bullied. None of this made any sense. Nobody except Emma had cared what happened to him in a very, very long time. Back at the palace, the nanny sat down hard on the polished floor and let out a long breath. The prince was safely home. Now she only had to collect the princess and the day would be finished. The spot on the grass where she had left Amelia sitting was completely empty. She had told that child to wait right there. She searched the entire grounds twice over. She found her surrounded and silent at the foot of a staircase, looking very small indeed. The nanny crossed that courtyard faster than anybody standing in it actually saw her move. Why did you steal food meant for the second prince? Leah was hungry, that was the whole of the crime. I told you to look after her, Highness, the headmaid said. She lowered her head and apologized. Slack off again, the woman warned, and your pay will be docked accordingly. Understood? A commoner threatening her wages. Her pride objected loudly. Her circumstances did not permit it. Escape would take money. So yes, ma'am, and it will certainly not happen a second time. Behind them, the servants laughed about the troublemaker princess and her equally useless brother. The door shut. Amelia stared hard at the floor and whispered that she was sorry. It's all right, she said. I should never have left you alone. She wiped the small tear-stained face clean. Even now, she thought, the assassin buried in me keeps showing straight through the cracks. She had never once in either of her lives known what it actually meant to live an ordinary one. It's funny, she murmured, mostly to herself. The child looked up at her, puzzled. Huh? It's nothing at all. She pulled the girl in against her shoulder and simply held on for a while. Nothing at all, she repeated. And for one strange moment, the whole palace was completely quiet. The princess slept with both arms locked around a bear and her mouth hanging wide open. Time to wake up, Your Highness. But I'm still sleepy, Rachel, came the muffled reply from the pillow. What about Ed? The girl yawned, offering to reveal her brother's hiding place as a personal favor. Entirely unnecessary. She had tracked both children yesterday and already knew every route they used. Eavesdropping around the palace had taught her 3 things. First, she had died a full year ago. Second, the real Rachel Brown had been recommended for this post by the previous nanny, Countess Conrad. But every servant who heard that name immediately went quiet, and not one of them would explain why. Third, a foreign king and his delegation were visiting, so security across the palace had doubled. She had planned to slip out and hunt for information on Ian. Now she would have to lie low instead. Besides, simply carrying one small child left her winded. That was useful information in its own right. Revenge in a body like this one was completely out of the question. She needed time and a great deal of it. So she opened another door instead and found the third prince already awake and waiting for her. What are you doing here at this hour? Don't overthink it, she told herself. This is simply another job. As your nanny, it is only natural that I should come and wake you in the morning. Her clients were a temperamental prince and a princess who stole food from other royals. Wonderful. The boy set his book aside with the distinct air of a man carefully laying out a trap. You have never once come to wake me at this hour in the entire 2 weeks you have worked here. In fact, you acted as if I didn't exist. Then yesterday you came running, so what exactly changed? She apologized for struggling to adjust. He said whatever and went off to wash his face. This child, she thought, watching him go, has an absolutely vicious instinct for timing. He splashed water at his own face twice, with all the thoroughness of a cat avoiding a bath. I'm done, he announced, straightening up as though he had finished a hard morning's labor. Nothing here would stay this ordinary. You should wash behind your ears as well. He insisted loudly that he had washed absolutely everything. The places you cannot see collect the most dirt, she explained. I'm a prince, he said. I am not dirty. No, Your Highness, she replied without a flicker. You are dirty. He looked genuinely wounded. The top of your head smells like horse manure. His hand shot up to check, which settled the argument. She would simply have to wash him herself. She reached for the basin the maid had left behind. And stopped. The water was ice cold. Was the prince's water always kept like this? Please bring some warm water, she called down to the maid standing on the tiles below. It was warm when I brought it up, the pink-haired girl said, smiling with one hand on her chest. I put my fingers in a moment ago, she answered, and it was cold enough to ache. Then it must simply have cooled since, the maid offered, still smiling that same fixed smile. And didn't His Highness say he was finished washing? Must I really fetch an entire fresh basin? Isn't that right, Your Highness? The prince said nothing at all, which told her everything. These servants, she decided, need some serious discipline. She started walking. Miss? She picked up the basin without breaking stride, and the maid's smile finally began to slip. The water hit the girl full in the face, and the whole room went silent for one long moment. Now that you have felt it yourself, is this water warm or is it cold? Bring us a fresh basin. And this time make certain it is actually warm. The empty basin clunked down onto the floor. Don't make me repeat myself. Yes, ma'am, the girl gasped and fled the room at a dead run. Why pick a fight she cannot win, the prince thought, staring. Amelia demanded to play with water too. Your Highness, she said, turning to the boy who had watched all of it without saying one word. If this happens again, report it to the head maid. Ignoring a problem has never once fixed it. And what would be the point? He muttered it at the floor. The old hag always takes the maid's side. It wasn't like this when Emma was here. There was that name again, surfacing for the third time. Did she leave the palace? She asked carefully, keeping her voice as light as she could manage. No, he said, and his fist closed at his side. She died, and it happened because of me. She held the sleeping princess a little tighter and did not ask him anything else. The pink-haired maid came scrambling back with a full basin, water sloshing over both her hands. Good, she said, testing it with 2 fingers. This time it is actually warm. Your Highness, if you will excuse me for just one moment. She rolled up both of her sleeves. The water hit him squarely in the face, and his eyes went perfectly round with outrage. Let go of me, he sputtered. You have to scrub your face properly, she said, like this. And since you are already soaked, I shall wash your hair as well. That is also part of a nanny's job. His howl of protest carried down 3 corridors. Mission complete, she thought, entirely satisfied. Compared with yesterday, the following morning began smoothly, which should have been a warning. A feast, first thing in the day. As a commoner, she had never once eaten food like this in her life. Perhaps this nanny business was not so bad after all. Then the prince set down his fork. He had picked every single vegetable out of his plate and stacked them at the edge like a barricade. Food is precious, Your Highness. You should eat as much of it as you can while it sits in front of you. But vegetables taste bad, he said with the absolute conviction of a 7-year-old. As long as it is not rotten or poisoned, surely that is good enough. Honestly, she did not care if he starved. But as his nanny, she had a duty. So instead she said, why don't we make a bet about it? The loser eats every leftover vegetable. I'm not playing Monte, he snapped. You would only win again. Then how about hide and seek? He sprang out of the chair. That happens to be my specialty. Leah wants to play too, the princess declared. Do you also dislike vegetables, Your Highness? Nope, she said, chewing happily. The princess, she decided, was 1,000 times better than the prince. Her Highness and I will be the seekers, she announced, and the prince's grin widened dangerously. They agreed to keep the game to the ground floor where the dining hall was. If she failed to find him, he won. You said the loser eats all the vegetables, he confirmed, already backing toward the door. I'll make you regret this, he called over his shoulder and vanished into the corridor. They would come looking in 10 minutes. That was the deal, and he intended to use every second of it. This isn't a good hiding place, he thought, glancing back down the polished hall. He needed somewhere she would never once think to check. The kitchens, then. And there it was. A heavy wooden storage box standing open in the golden light. She would never find him in there. He hauled himself up over the rim and dropped inside. Through the gap in the lid, he could hear maids talking. Was the king of Adamante truly that handsome? His hair was jet black like the night sky. One of them sighed, and his skin was sun-warmed. And amber eyes that shone like stars. She had thought he was a temple statue that learned to walk. "Quit daydreaming and give me a hand," the other snapped. Something heavy thumped down nearby. "The rats have been causing so much trouble lately," one of them complained. This should do, she decided. Then footsteps moved away across the stone, and the kitchen emptied out. That was close, he thought, breathing out. Those maids had very nearly found him first. By now, the nanny would be searching all the wrong rooms. He grinned into the dark. He sat curled in the box with his arms round his knees, smiling, waiting to be found. Then the smile faded, because sitting in the dark like this reminded him of something older. Someone had once asked him whether he wanted to join their game of hide-and-seek. A boy in a red cloak, older, well-dressed, standing in a room full of light. "Can I really join you, Lloyd?" "Of course," the older boy said. "We need more people to play. Come here." He was pulled along by the wrist down toward the storerooms. "If you hide in here," Lloyd promised, "nobody will ever find you. You take cover here, Edwin, and what about you?" "I have another place in mind," Lloyd said. "If someone finds you, shout so I know. Understood?" "That way," Lloyd said, resting a hand on his shoulder. "The two of us will win together. But you cannot come out until the Seeker finds you, no matter what happens. If you do, we lose, and it will be entirely your fault, Edwin." "Don't worry," the younger boy said, beaming up at him. "You can absolutely count on me." "I will," he promised. And the lid came down over him in the dark. His heart beat loud in that small space, and he smiled the whole time he waited. It was the first time Lloyd had ever asked him to play. He would not disappoint him. Then Lloyd would play with him again. Outside the window, the sun began to go down. Why wasn't anybody coming? He shifted, cramped, and the light through the boards turned orange. Should he take a look outside? His hand hovered near the lid without touching it. "But you cannot come out until the Seeker finds you. If you do, we lose, and it is your fault." No, he decided, drawing his hand back. He would wait just a little bit longer. They were only having trouble finding him. They certainly had not forgotten about him. Then a voice was calling his title, and hurried footsteps came across the floor toward the boxes. "Are you all right?" Somebody was lifting the lid, and light poured in over his face. "Emma," he said, dazed. She had been terrified that something might have happened to him. "Oh, I'm all right," he told her, because he was mostly. But where had Lloyd gone? "What a nuisance," someone said behind her. "No wonder the king doesn't favor the boy. So many people running about at night looking for him, all because of a childish prank." Lloyd hadn't forgotten him, he thought. The realization arrived like a light being switched off. "Your Highness?" Emma was still speaking to him, and he could no longer quite hear her. Lloyd had never intended to play with him at all. "It's nothing," he told her. "It's nothing." He sat in the storeroom with his arms wrapped around himself and did not cry. Back in the present, in another box, in another year, this isn't fun anymore, he thought. Then something scraped heavily against the lid above his head. He pushed. The lid did not move. He pushed harder, and it still did not move at all. They put stones on the boxes to keep the rats out of the food. Was that what the maids had done? Which meant, he realized, with his palms flat against the wood, that he was sealed inside. "Is anyone out there?" He hammered on the lid until his arms burned, and the stupid thing never budged. Emma was no longer here to come looking. The maids would not even notice he was missing. And that nanny certainly wouldn't care. He slid down against the boards and closed his eyes. Somewhere above him, light moved. A hand caught the edge of the lid and heaved. "There you are, Your Highness," she said, looking down into the box. "We found Ed," the princess crowed from her shoulder, both arms flung triumphantly in the air. He sat at the table afterward with his eyes red and swollen and refused to look at anyone. "What took you so long, you idiot?" he wailed, and the princess immediately began wailing with him. "Ed, why are you crying? Don't cry." This princess, she noted, cried at absolutely everything. "Please stop crying now, both of you." Neither of them showed the slightest inclination to stop. "So does this mean I won the bet? Does that matter right now?" It did. The vegetables depended on it. Adults stop crying if you threaten them a little. Children, she was learning, are another matter entirely. That was why she had never been any good with children in her first life either. She was terrible at comforting anyone. Still, she wiped his face with the edge of her sleeve. "I'm sorry I was late," she said, and meant it more than she expected to. He looked up at her, and something in that swollen red face made her look away first. But she would have to get used to this. That was becoming clearer by the hour. Morning came through the tall windows, quiet and gold, over a palace nobody visited. His eyes were still puffy at breakfast, though he pretended otherwise with great dignity. "What took you so long to find me, anyway?" The headmaid had stopped her on the way. Then he asked the question that actually mattered to him. "Why did you come looking for me?" "Because a game of hide-and-seek cannot end until I find you, Your Highness." "Oh," he said. "Right. By the way, I won, so why haven't you finished your vegetables?" He flinched visibly. "Because they're cold now. How is anyone supposed to eat them like this? They taste even worse." "Those were the rules, Your Highness. You promised to eat them regardless of how bad they tasted." He chewed with the expression of a man being executed slowly, and she watched his wrist instead. Why did that bracelet look so familiar to her? She had seen that setting somewhere before. And the fact that his previous nanny was called Emma bothered her more each day. "May I ask you something?" "What is it? Is that bracelet important to you? You keep it on you like something precious." "It was Emma's," the princess announced brightly through a mouthful of bread. Emma gave it to him. "Leah, you don't have to tell her these things." The princess ignored him completely. He put his hand over his eyes and groaned, and then he gave up defending it. "You're right," he admitted. "This bracelet is very important to me. It's a reminder of Emma's last wish." "Her last wish," she repeated. "What did she wish for?" "She said that she wanted me to be happy." The room went very quiet around that sentence. And a memory came up through the floor of her mind, uninvited and perfectly clear. "Goodness, Kyla," an older woman had said, turning something over in her hands. "What is this?" "A token of gratitude. Bring it to me and I will grant 3 wishes without asking any payment." "I see you are still as curt as ever," the woman laughed, delighted rather than offended. "You could simply have said it was a gift." The young assassin had said nothing to that. "Very well," the woman decided. "My first wish is that you keep coming to visit me from now on." The younger woman had only laughed at that, holding her own chest as if it ached pleasantly. "For my second wish, come to me whenever your work becomes too heavy. We may share no blood, but we are family. And I shall save the last wish for later. Who knows, you might disappear again without a single word." The Emma she had known also wanted everyone around her to be happy, and pulled strangers into her arms. Could this Emma, the prince's former nanny, sitting at the edge of 2 lives like that? Could she possibly be the very same Emma? The thought would not leave her alone. Across the table, the prince cleared his throat and held out a closed fist toward her. "Here," he said with immense casualness, "I have a gift for you." "Thank you, Your Highness." She opened her palm and accepted whatever it was politely. Then she paused because the gift was tickling the inside of her hand. A bright green grasshopper sat there, considering its options and hers. "Ha ha ha," he crowed, pointing at her. Gotcha. It was the happiest she had ever seen him. "I'm not a great admirer of insects," she said, "so you may have this one back, Your Highness." His shriek could have shattered glass. The princess howled with laughter at her brother's expense. "I'm going straight to bed," he declared afterward. "But you must wash first, Your Highness." "Do I smell like horse manure again?" He sniffed at his own collar suspiciously. "No," she said. "This time your entire body smells like dirt." He had no answer to that. "Your Highness." The headmaid's voice stopped all 3 of them in the corridor. He flinched. "Did you happen to leave your palace yesterday?" "What?" "No," he said, far too quickly. "One of your own maids says she saw you near the stables." The woman came toward them. She caught the boy's collar in her fist. "Did you truly not go outside?" The nanny watched that hand close on the child, and something in her went very cold and very quiet. She had been wondering who exactly informed on him. It did not take long to work out. The maid stood at the far end of the hall, smiling pleasantly at nothing in particular. The one who had carried up the basin of freezing water. Had she snitched because of the humiliation? "All I did was step out for a bit," the boy protested. "And take a short walk, that's all." "A walk. I believe I told you not to wander anywhere without my permission, but," he began. "I went out with him, ma'am." Every head in the corridor turned toward her at once. "What was that, Lady Rachel?" His Highness felt cooped up, so we took a short stroll together. "That is absurd." The woman let go of the boy. "What gives you the right to take him outside?" Well, she said, smiling, isn't that exactly the sort of thing a nanny is permitted to do? It has not even been a month since you began working here at this palace. You are still being vetted. We cannot entrust the prince's safety to someone like you. That's odd, she said. It seems to me the maids at this palace are the ones who ought to be vetted. Excuse me? The headmaid's voice dropped several degrees in a single word. I'm certain you never instructed a maid to carry cold water up to His Highness. Somebody flinched. The woman looked at her for a long moment, then waved a hand. Very well. As his nanny, you may take charge of every matter concerning his well-being from this day forward. She turned and walked away, and somewhere down the corridor a door slammed shut. What do you think you're doing? The prince demanded. Everything will be fine, Your Highness. She patted his head with her free hand, the princess still perched on her hip. At the very least, nobody will be bringing you cold water ever again. That was the morning. By afternoon, she understood the headmaid had surrendered nothing at all, and had set a trap instead. Don't be ridiculous, she said, staring at an empty tray and an unlit stove. Why aren't any of you doing your jobs? The two maids exchanged a look. What do you mean you cannot prepare His Highness's meal? It was not a difficult question. We're very sorry. The headmaid said you would handle every task related to His Highness now. We are simply following her instructions, that is all. One of them was struggling not to laugh. She let out a slow breath. So you are telling me that I am to prepare his meals myself. Both maids nodded with enormous satisfaction. We have a great deal of work to do, so please excuse us. They fled before she could answer. So that was how they intended to play it. She pressed a hand to her forehead. That woman had planned this from the start, handing over authority only to hand over every chore with it. And the other maids were clearly on her side. To them, the nanny was an outsider stirring the pot. She had not been in this body long, but one thing was already perfectly clear to her. The prince and princess were not the only ones alone here. Nobody stood on Rachel Brown's side either. Cooking, unfortunately, was a skill she had only ever used for poisoning her targets. She could at least bring him the black bread the servants ate. She could already hear him complaining. Then shouting broke out ahead of her. Are you deaf or just stupid? Wash every curtain by morning. And why should I do all your chores? The younger maid shot back. I am not your personal servant. The slap landed hard enough to echo down the corridor. How dare you speak to me casually? You are merely masquerading as a noble. You have some nerve talking back to a count's daughter. Countess Conrad did nothing but disrupt the proper order of this palace, the woman went on. That is precisely why the maids in the annex have grown so arrogant. She seized a fistful of hair. And on top of everything, she brought in some obscure wench as the prince's nanny. Are you talking about me? Both women turned around very slowly indeed. Lady Rachel, the younger one gasped, still on her knees on the flagstones. I didn't realize this was how the maids here sorted out their hierarchy among themselves. I don't know the whole story, but you should refrain from violence. Are you saying we are at fault? What gives you the right to make that call? I'm not passing judgment on who is right. However, I do have the right to hold you accountable for bad-mouthing me behind my own back. Why are you making that face? The count's daughter had gone several shades paler. Are you upset that an obscure wench like me is calling you out in front of everyone? You would never dare meet my eyes outside this palace. How dare you lecture me here? You're just a lowly orphan the count took in, so know your place. Her hand came up again. It never landed. A grip closed around her wrist and stopped it dead in the air. You don't know what my life was like before that adoption, she said quietly. For all you know. For all you know, I could have killed people before. The woman's feet left the floor. She set her down and released her. If I catch you gossiping again, it will not end well. Is that clear? She was not raising her voice, which somehow made it very much worse. Yes, both women stammered and scrambled away down the corridor without looking back. What are you still doing on the ground? The young maid was staring up at her, wide-eyed. You're the new nanny, aren't you? She got up and seized both of the nanny's hands. Thank you so much for helping me back there. You really did save me. Elsewhere, two maids whispered that the new nanny was far too strong. I merely gave a warning. Well then, please excuse me. She turned toward the door and made it roughly 2 steps. Wait, the girl called after her. Let me at least introduce myself properly first. My name is Catherine Vale, she announced, with the volume of someone declaring war. I work in the annex of the Third Prince's Palace. Please remember that. If there is anything at all I can help you with, only say the word. Anything at all. I would like to return the favor. Return the favor, the nanny repeated, stopping. Yes? The girl blinked as the nanny turned back around and looked at her properly. In that case, she said, do you happen to know how to cook? Catherine stood there holding a bundle of linen and slowly began to smile. This is delicious, the prince said the next morning. What is it? I've only had food this good at banquets. Yes, so yummy, the princess agreed, working through her bowl with total commitment. It's only a simple fish stew, your highness, Catherine mumbled. You are far too kind. Making a simple dish taste good is a genuine talent, the nanny said, and meant it. Thank you, Lady Rachel. Catherine looked at the floor and went slightly pink. But will you be all right? The nanny asked it quietly, once the children were occupied. Pardon? I heard the head maid told the other maids not to assist me with anything at all. Oh, but I didn't help you, Lady Rachel. Catherine said it with perfect innocence. What? The girl put a hand to her chest and smiled like someone who had thought this through. I simply prepared a meal, because the master of this palace should never go hungry. Nobody will find out. The main palace maids eat separately and ignore whatever happens in the annex. Wait, the maids eat separately from one another? That was new information. Most maids at the main palace come from old noble lines. The annex takes commoners and bought titles. As a result, there is constant friction between the two groups, which explained the count's daughter. Nobody would ever care where leftover food ended up, and the head maid would certainly never notice. So you truly don't have to worry about me, Catherine finished, folding her hands neatly. I see, the nanny said. That is genuinely a relief. It was also a great deal of useful information. I want to go outside, the prince announced from the doorway, having heard nothing of the above. There is plenty of fun to be had inside the palace, your highness. He had misunderstood yesterday entirely. Leah also wants to go outside, the princess sang, bouncing, not the princess as well. I'll clear the dishes, Catherine offered, so please do go ahead with them. No, let me. These plates belong to the annex anyway, and the nanny had no argument for that. You can simply go with them, Lady Rachel. She was, it seemed, thoroughly outmaneuvered. Yay, the princess cheered, seizing her hand. Let's go, Rachel. Hurry up, she commanded. Yes, your highness, the nanny sighed and followed her out. Outside, the sky was enormous and clear, and the gardens ran green in every direction. That over there is the Imperial Library, Leah, and the palace beside it belongs to the first prince. Uh-huh, the girl said breezily, tossing her golden ball. Leah already knows all that. Then can you find your own way back? The princess giggled at the very suggestion. Of course, Leah is extremely clever, so Leah will certainly never get lost anywhere. And where did you get those brains? From you, obviously. The two of them were hopeless together. She had noticed it before. Whatever else he was, the prince was an absolute angel to his sister. I said I don't want spinach, he bellowed somewhere behind them. If only he extended that to other people. Then the princess stopped walking, and her whole face changed in a way the nanny did not like. It's father, she said. If that was the princess's father, then that man was Emperor Kabelius III. He looked exactly as she remembered him from her days as an assassin. But who stood beside him? A knight, perhaps? No. The bearing was wrong, and so was the way the guards angled toward him. Someone of very high rank. A new noble, possibly. Black hair and an unusually fine black coat. Then he smiled directly at her, and her stomach dropped. Had he felt her eyes from that distance? If his senses were that sharp, she should avoid his attention entirely. Then the princess dropped her ball. The golden ball bounced once on the tiles and rolled straight toward the imperial party. A polished black shoe came down and stopped it neatly against the stone. Pardon me for a moment, your majesty, the man said and bent down. She did not yet know he was the most dangerous man in the empire. He straightened with the ball in his hand and crossed the courtyard toward her without hurrying. Here, he said, holding it out. Up close, his eyes were amber, and they were fixed on her face. Take the ball and leave, she told herself. Thank you, she said aloud, reaching for it. By the way, he said pleasantly, keeping hold of it, haven't the two of us met somewhere before? Have we met somewhere before? Rachel Brown had been adopted by a count. She would never know a man like this. No. One glance told her he outranked a count easily. So why leave the emperor's side to come over here? You must be mistaken, she said. There was no chance of finding her quarry that conveniently. He smiled and laid a hand across his chest, entirely unbothered by the denial. Still, he said, you seem so remarkably familiar to me. Are you quite certain this is the first time we have met? He was watching for something. If he could see past Rachel Brown's outer shell somehow, that changed everything. Could he possibly be somebody she had known in her previous life, wearing a face she never saw? But she remembered no man like this at all, and nobody could recognize her inside a stranger's body. Yes, she said, closing her hand tight around the fabric of her skirt. I believe so. Then it seems I was mistaken. Please excuse me. He bowed to her with unnecessary elegance. I'm glad you recovered your ball, Your Highness. Me too, the princess said happily. Until next time, miss, he said, and walked back toward the emperor without looking round. I didn't even get to thank him. If he was connected to Rachel Brown, they would meet again. Right now, these two were her priority. Shall we head back as well? Already, the prince groaned. But when they reached the annex corridor, two maids in black were standing where nobody should be. What's this? Something about the whole hallway felt distinctly wrong. You there, she said, and one of the maids visibly jumped. Did something happen while I was gone? The woman covered her mouth to hide a smirk. One of the annex maids had the nerve to disobey the head maid, she said. A commoner served His Highness a meal. What happened to her? What do you think happened to her? The maid was thoroughly enjoying this. The head maid punished her personally. She should be locked in the food storage by now. Well, the nanny said, I have a great deal of work. Please excuse me. She turned away. The prince caught her sleeve, stricken. That maid was punished for bringing me food? Your Highness, please return to your room with Princess Amelia. She unhooked his hand gently. What? Where exactly are you going? She was already moving down the corridor. I must make one brief stop somewhere, she said without turning around. Wait, what are you planning to do? The question echoed after her off the marble. She reached the storage door and put a hand on the latch. Catherine, are you in there? A small voice answered from behind the wood. Lady Rachel? What happened? The head maid found out that I served His Highness a meal. But she was lenient with me. She said she would let me out once I had reflected for a day. This girl was punished because of her. So she would take responsibility. Just a moment, she said. Pardon? 2 clicks, a scrape, and the door swung open. How did you do that? The head maid has the only key, Catherine said, staring up at her from the floor. You don't always need a key to open a lock, but you will be punished too if you are caught. Stay still. She took the girl's shoulder and turned her toward the light and saw the blood on her back. Then she said nothing for a while. I just have one question. You knew you would be punished, so why did you help me? Like I said, I wasn't helping you. I'm being serious. The girl stopped laughing and looked at her hands instead. Because I was grateful, she said finally, and very quietly. The main palace maids have harassed me for years. You are the only person who ever stood up for me. So I wanted to help you in whatever way I could, she finished, gripping her own skirt. Catherine, the nanny said. The girl looked up from the floorboards. Yes? I helped you because it was simply the right thing to do. Nothing more complicated than that. That maid's behavior was objectively unreasonable, and that is one of the things I despise most. You were punished entirely because of me, so it is only right that I get you out of here. She pulled the girl up by the sleeve before she could argue about it. Therefore, you don't owe me anything at all. You may stop trying to repay debts you never took on. You're an unusual person, Lady Rachel, Catherine laughed. An unusual person, but a good one. An assassin being called a good person. If I'm good, every genuinely good person in this world is dead. Goodness, the girl grinned. You're only saying that because you're embarrassed, aren't you? Back in the annex, 2 maids saw Catherine's back and cried out her name in the doorway. My goodness, what happened to you? Just look at this. Did the head maid let you out at last? No, Catherine said. The nanny did. 3 heads turned toward the door at once. The head maid has gone too far this time, and she never says a word when the main palace maids cause trouble. The nanny stood quietly in the doorway and let them talk, which was how she learned the useful part. If it weren't for Countess Katrina, one of them said, that woman would have been thrown out years ago. Hush, someone hissed. But the nanny had already stepped into the room. Could you tell me more? More about the head maid, she finished, resting her chin on one hand. The room went very quiet. Countess Phelan Katrina, the flower of high society, had risen on beauty and social skill alike. She became the second consort's right hand, so the head maid answered to the second consort as well. But why assign such a woman to Edwin, of all people? He was hardly worth watching that closely. We're low-ranking maids, one said nervously. We'll be in real trouble if she finds out about this. They hesitated in the lamplight, weighing the risk against what had been done to Catherine. Are you afraid she might retaliate? Yes, the woman admitted at last. I'm sorry. There's no need to worry. I did this, so I will take the responsibility for it. Really? But in return, she said, and the room leaned in toward her. Tell me everything you know about the head maid and Countess Katrina. Every last detail. I will handle this situation myself. Nobody in that kitchen doubted that she meant it. In that case, one of them said, and began to talk. She listened for a long time. She was walking back through the palace when a hand closed on her arm and threw her down. Two women in black had her on the marble before she chose whether to let them. The slap cracked across the corridor. How dare you release a punished maid without my permission? Did I not make myself perfectly clear to you? I said I would leave you in charge of all matters concerning His Highness, and that you would answer for it. And yet you not only pushed your duties onto somebody else, you also interfered with a matter that falls squarely under my own jurisdiction. It is impossible to tend to every need of a prince and a princess alone. I need the maid's help. But you forbade them from serving His Highness at all, using the transfer of authority as your excuse. The head maid's expression did not change. Didn't I say I would leave everything to you? Naturally, I assumed you would handle it all yourself. Don't you find that strange? The nanny said from the floor. What was that? The woman tilted her head down toward her, curious rather than alarmed. Prince Edwin is supposed to be the master of this palace. That was the whole argument. She smiled up at her from the marble, and it was not a pleasant smile at all. What exactly are you implying? The head maid's fist closed at her side. Why punish a maid for feeding His Highness without his permission? If that is not challenging the imperial family, what is? How dare you run your mouth, you insolent wench? Then a child's voice cut across the corridor. That's enough. What do you think you're doing? Edwin stood at the foot of the red staircase with his sister behind him. Your Highness, I was merely disciplining Lady Rachel for disrupting order in your palace. She bowed low. But you are the one disrupting the order here, not her. Pardon? Whatever do you mean? I am the master of this palace, the boy said, and for once nobody laughed at him. Everything here belongs to me, including the maids. Isn't that right? That is correct, Your Highness, the woman said more carefully than before. I don't need those maids over there. They are your maids, not mine, and we both know it. But this woman is different. He walked across the marble and stood between them. She is my nanny and Leah's. He said it as a matter of settled law. I beg your pardon? What I'm saying is that my nanny belongs to me. So nobody lays a hand on her except Leah and me. Yeah, the princess agreed fiercely. Rachel is ours. I will be the one to punish or reward her exactly as I see fit. In other words, on the floor behind him, the nanny touched the mark on her own cheek. If you lay a hand on my nanny again, head maid, you will answer to me for it. The woman looked down at the 7-year-old boy for a long, dangerous moment. Yes, Your Highness, she said, and released the nanny's arms. Let's go. They left. The nanny sat in a chair in the quiet room afterward with 2 children watching her. Rachel, does your face hurt a lot? No, Your Highness. It genuinely did not. But it looks like it does, the princess insisted. Leah will blow on it and make the boo-boo better. You idiot, Edwin shouted, and both of them jumped. Even the princess sat down hard. Don't you know what happens if you pick a fight with that old hag? Please lower your voice, Your Highness. You're frightening, Princess Amelia. He shut his mouth immediately, which told her something. Now she'll run straight to the second consort and tell her every word of it, he groaned. Then why did you step in at all? He blinked at her. What? You are normally a great deal more timid than that, Your Highness. He flinched at the word. It's true, he admitted. I do get frightened easily, but I am not a coward. I promised Emma that I would never become someone like that, and a promise was a promise. He pressed a hand flat to his chest as he said it, as though holding something in place. Besides, he added, going red, you helped me first, so I was only returning the favor. I'm someone who repays his debts. So that was why he had stepped in, frightened the whole time. She had not expected this sly little boy to say anything quite that commendable. Why are you laughing? Then you and I are alike, Your Highness. She helped his sister up off the rug. I also believe that any favor you receive should eventually be returned in full. That night, in the annex, a maid was turning her room upside down. Where had her uniform gone? Oh, I forgot to say, the nanny borrowed it. Why on earth would a nanny need a maid's uniform? Catherine, her roommate said slowly. Don't you think that nanny is a little strange? How should I put it? She's a bit eerie. All those questions she asked us earlier today. The Katrina questions made sense, but she also wanted the head maid's daily routine in detail. Elsewhere, a knock came at a door. It's time for you to leave now, ma'am. Is it already that late? The head maid set down her pen and looked at the dark window. 3 women in black waited by the door to escort her to the second consort's palace. The nanny said she would take full responsibility for everything, one of them murmured. You don't think anything bad is going to happen, do you? Somewhere behind them, a latch clicked open. Rule 1 of being an assassin. You need a good disguise. Hair dyed, check. Uniform borrowed, check. The annex maids had been telling the truth about the layout. Rule 2 of being an assassin. Gather enough information before the mission. The head maid visited the second consort nightly and never returned in under an hour. She had that long to find the woman's weakness. Something clinked at the back of a drawer. Was this it? A gold necklace, set with jeweled flowers. She could have hidden stolen goods considerably better. But this was not what she had come for. She put it back exactly where she found it. Then she straightened, and her expression cooled because she had heard something in the corridor. That's odd. One drawer sat proud of the frame, as though something were lodged behind it. Let's see, she murmured, and worked the whole drawer free of its runners. Found it. A ledger. 100 crates of carrots. 100 crates of onions. 200 sacks of beans. She hadn't even tried to make the numbers look convincing. Feeding her own greed had clearly mattered more to that woman than serving the imperial family. Now, she thought, closing the book, you will no longer be able to control this prince's palace. The next evening, that same office was being torn apart. Where the hell did it go? I know I left it here, shelves went over, why is it gone? Ma'am, a maid gasped from the doorway and immediately regretted the decision. What did I tell you about barging in without knocking? The slap knocked the girl sideways. Then a second set of footsteps stopped in the corridor outside. My. No matter how angry they are, a noble must always maintain their dignity, head maid. The woman in the doorway lowered her fan. It was Phelan Katrina herself. What is she doing here? Katrina was the right hand of the Ventrum Empire's second consort. To offend her was to offend the consort. Their old alliance had ended when the head maid outgrew it. It's been a while, head maid. The bow that followed was considerably deeper than usual. Countess Katrina, she managed. Her voice had lost most of its authority somewhere. What are you searching for quite so desperately? I confess I'm curious. I misplaced an important document, the head maid said. Katrina smiled and let that sit. More importantly, to what do I owe this honor? I came across a certain book you might like to see. She held up a ledger bound in blue and gold, and the head maid's face emptied out completely. How did you? A very righteous maid sent it to me anonymously. You really should manage your staff better. 20 maids serve this palace, yet you ordered 100 crates of carrots a day. That I can imagine. But 300 gold on a gift for House Katrina? This cheap necklace wouldn't be it, would it? The one you gave me for my birthday, 3 years ago. So it was 300 gold every single year. I don't know how much you embezzled. She caught the woman by the collar. But you used my name to do it. I found you a place at the Imperial Palace when you were serving some minor baron in the countryside. I didn't write that ledger. Silence, Katrina said, and the whole room obeyed her instantly. Did you imagine you were untouchable simply because the second consort speaks to you? Did you truly think I wouldn't recognize your own handwriting, you foolish woman? Leave this palace tonight and go back to your hometown. If I ever see you again, I'll have your head. Stealing from the imperial family is a grave crime. Unless you want to be torn apart, get out now. Then Katrina turned toward the door where a maid stood waiting with her hands folded. Thank you for showing me to the office, she said, Lady Rachel. It was my pleasure. Goodbye, my lady. And she bowed as the countess swept past her. You, the former head maid choked, from the floor of her own ruined office. Why on earth did you do such a thing? She was on her feet now, shaking with it. Aren't you the one who told His Highness that lying was a terrible thing to do? The nanny only smiled at her, which was somehow the cruelest answer available. It was you, wasn't it? She came across the floor with her hand already rising. You damn wench! The swing was wide, furious, and completely untrained. I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, ma'am. She caught the wrist without looking at it. It was you. It had to be you. I tolerated your rudeness once, and once was quite enough. You are no longer the head maid, so I no longer have any reason at all to hold back. The exit is this way. I'll guide you personally so that you don't get lost on your way out. Elsewhere, Katrina walked the red carpet in a fine mood, caught her embezzling in my own name. This news must not reach the second consort, the Empress, or any of the other noble houses. I can barely hold my head up. The embarrassment alone was nearly unbearable. Shall I plant someone else in the third prince's palace, then? Her attendant asked. No, we should stop wasting our time worrying about that powerless little prince. Now that Countess Conrad is dead, there is nobody left to pester us about him at all. By the way, she said, and her steps slowed on the carpet. Did you find the maid who reported all this to me? The attendant hesitated. My apologies. We could not locate her. You couldn't find her? She sent the ledger with a letter claiming it was for my sake. So why did she then disappear? Shall we widen the search? Forget it. Dark-haired maids in uniform are common at this palace. There is no need to waste any more energy trying to find one of them. I'm returning to my estate. The carriage was already waiting under the trees. Won't you see the second consort first? No, we'll see her at Marquis Radcliffe's banquet in 2 days. There is no need to sour her mood by telling her what happened here today. Depart at once. Yes, my lady. And the matter was closed as far as she was concerned. Back at the annex, a young maid stared at a sheet of paper and could not make it say something else. Why on earth was I made the head maid? The question came out closer to a wail. I'm only the daughter of a viscount. His Highness said you're the most trustworthy maid here. To be precise, he said he liked my stew. But more importantly, you stayed loyal to him. You stayed loyal through the former head maid's tyranny. Her Majesty thinks highly of you for it. Congratulations, Catherine. All those years of hardship were finally paying off. The Empress had never shown any interest in the third prince, yet she appointed this maid personally. Katrina's planted spy was gone. Was the Empress now moving to take control of the board? 2 factions were fighting for the throne. One backed the Empress's son, the other the second consort's. Perhaps the Empress simply wanted the consort's influence kept away from the third prince's palace. But why choose a maid who defied her own superior? The nanny could not read that decision at all. Most of the main building maids had ties to the old head maid, and resigned of their own accord. The annex maids stepped naturally into every position they left behind. And so life at the third prince's palace grew more peaceful than it had ever been. Lady Rachel, Catherine said one afternoon, the most famous man on the continent is staying here. Really? Aren't you going to ask who it is? I'm not particularly curious, the nanny said. Come on, at least pretend. Perhaps she should have left this girl locked in the storage room. All right, she sighed. Who is it? The Wolf King. Catherine flung both arms wide as though announcing a festival. The nanny looked at her without a single flicker of recognition crossing her face. The Night King of the newly founded Adamante Kingdom. When did a kingdom like that come to exist? About a year ago, I think. Which was, she noted, roughly when she had died. Is he genuinely that famous? Of course he is, Catherine said, scandalized by the question. He destroyed the Lionel Kingdom and practically unified the West. The West was full of monsters. They say he can take down 100 monsters alone. He came here to hunt them, apparently. These rumors sounded wildly exaggerated. Still, something about the description snagged at her. Catherine kept talking happily, and the nanny's expression slowly changed. Are his eyes gold by any chance? She asked in a voice that had gone rather flat. Why, yes, how on earth did you know that? She said nothing. She was remembering a black coat, a golden ball, and a smile aimed at her back. People say those gold eyes make him look even more frightening than the stories do. Apparently, Catherine added cheerfully, they look exactly like the eyes of a monster. Far away, a blade went through something with too many teeth, and the rumors proved conservative. No wonder they call you the god of war, the emperor said, applauding. You flatter me, your majesty. Would those blades work as well on men? You needn't worry. My men are knights, not wild beasts. Well, I am of the mind that beasts are considerably more dangerous than trained men. Perhaps. But men know who their power should and should not be used against. Those who hold power, he said, should be using it to protect people. If we are human, should we not respect the lives of our fellow men? The emperor laughed out loud. The Adamante Kingdom has quite an interesting ruler indeed. Your Majesty, a servant announced, the Minister of State has arrived at the border outpost. You must depart at once. The emperor's smile did not change at all as he said it. Then I shall leave the rest in your hands, the king said, and watched him go. Why must you go out of your way to put a target on your back? His attendant demanded. He picked the fight first, and I merely answered it. Perhaps I should rule a stronger nation. Please stop talking. I genuinely fear you will cause a diplomatic incident at this rate. All right, the king said, pushing his black hair back from those amber eyes. More importantly, he said, where exactly did you hear such words? What words? About knowing when power should and should not be used. You don't truly believe that yourself, do you? Ah, the king said. I heard it long ago, he said, from an assassin who came to kill me. Giddy up, giddy up! Somewhere in the third prince's palace, a horse made an unconvincing neighing sound. Catherine's here, the princess shrieked. Rachel, let's say hello to her. Catherine froze in the doorway with a tray in both hands and no idea where to look. Lady Rachel, she said faintly. The nanny was on all fours on the carpet. Hello, Catherine? The princess beamed from her back. Say hello to my horse. Her name is Rachel, too. It's the same as Rachel's. Don't you dare say hello. Hello, Miss Horse, Catherine said obediently. Traitor, the nanny thought. If somebody greets you, you greet them back, the princess instructed. That's what a good horse does. Now that I've seen this, my studying will go beautifully today, the prince said from the doorway. That impish little prince, she thought, from underneath his sister. Off to my lesson, Leah. When you get back, she promised silently, you are eating a mountain of vegetables. The prince had a tutor. A young princess, however, was educated by her nanny. Which word, Your Highness? Thankfully, the previous nanny had already taught her to read. This one, the girl said, pointing at a page, the Emperor of the Night. My father is the Emperor, so who is the Emperor of the Night? Are there two of them? Did you bring another of the books the annex maids have been reading, Your Highness? Yep, Catherine was reading it. The cover looked pretty. Catherine went a remarkable color. This book is far too difficult for you. I'll fetch you another one. The princess clung to it. Then when can Leah read that one? She demanded, holding it against her chest. Much later, the nanny said with tremendous finality. So what does Emperor of the Night actually mean? Leah is extremely curious about it. The term refers to a man who is, she said carefully, strong at night. Then my father must be one too. He's the strongest man alive, so he must be strong at night. Why do you keep saying you don't know, Rachel? Because you think Leah wouldn't understand? No, because you are far too young to learn about things like that. Perhaps ask His Majesty yourself. Oh, good idea. Leah will make sure to ask father the very next time she sees him. Your Majesty, the nanny thought, watching her go. I apologize in advance for all of this. That night, the sky over the palace turned black and the stars went out one by one. Rachel, the princess whispered, the sky is crying. The thunder is rather loud tonight. Rachel, can I keep the light on? It was the last completely ordinary night either of them would get for a long while. Every light in the palace was extinguished before bed to prevent fires. Very well, she said. Really? Emma said the lights must go out every night. It's all right, she said, and lit the lamp anyway. Good night, Your Highness. Good night, Rachel, the girl mumbled into the pillow. Within a minute, she was asleep, one fist still curled in the blanket. Then the storm broke properly, and something cracked across the sky loud enough to shake the glass. The light went out, the princess whispered, sitting bolt upright in the dark. Another flash lit the whole room white, and the shadow of the window fell across her bed like a hand. Leah is scared, she said to nobody at all and pulled the blanket over her head. Then a knock came at the door. Your Highness, are you still awake? Rachel? So you were awake after all, Your Highness. A lamp came in ahead of her. Rachel. The blanket flew off, and the girl beamed like the storm had never happened. I came because it looked as though the light had gone out. Leah didn't put it out. It was already out when I woke up. Then it was probably just the wind, she said, checking the window. Please excuse me, she said, and bowed toward the door. A small hand closed hard around the fabric of her skirt before she took a single step. Can't you just stay with Leah? Are you frightened, Your Highness? No, the princess said. Then the sky flashed again outside the window. I'm scared. Lightning and thunder are genuinely terrifying, she confessed into the nanny's side. Then excuse me for a moment, she said, and set the lamp down on the table. She pulled the heavy curtains closed and banked the blankets high around the bed. How's that? It's quieter now. I'm not scared anymore, the girl decided. That's good, she said, and sat down on the edge of the mattress in the dark. Rachel, aren't you scared of the dark or the thunder? No, Your Highness. These things pass. Pass? When the night passes, morning comes. And when the thunder stops, the sky clears again. So there is nothing at all to fear. Then what are you scared of, Rachel? And she found she had no ready answer. What had she actually been afraid of in her past life? Blood? Hatred? Killing? Or something she had never once looked at directly? I'm not sure, she admitted to a sleeping child who would not remember asking. After that night, the princess grew considerably clingier. Play with Leah, eat with Leah. Tell Leah a story, she demanded, arms out, from the middle of an enormous bed. It's getting late, Your Highness. You really should be going to sleep now. I'll sleep if you tell me a story. The princess was beginning to argue exactly like her brother. Just tell her a story, it isn't difficult. Why are you here, Your Highness? I'll stay until Leah falls asleep, he said. I'll go back to my own room later, so don't worry. He had come because his sister was frightened of thunder. He really did dote on that girl. A story about a princess, the girl announced, settling in with great expectation. What story should she tell exactly? The nanny thought about it rather too honestly. Every princess she had personally met had hired her. Kill my husband, remove my rival. This one was not yet 10 years old. Perhaps those particular stories could wait a decade. Another princess story? Aren't you sick of them by now, Leah? The prince asked from the rug. Nope. Don't you like princesses, Ed? No, he said without any hesitation at all. Why not? Princesses are pretty and they are kind. That was the whole of her argument. Because they're weak, he said, and his hand closed into a fist on his knee. And I hate weakness. The room got noticeably quieter after that sentence. Does that mean you hate Leah as well? She was already holding her book against her chest. Leah's also weak, she said, and her eyes filled instantly. Her brother nearly fell off the rug. Idiot! That's because you're still a baby! He pinched her nose to stop the crying. Besides, you'll be fine, because I will protect you. That's right, she agreed. You're a prince. Did you only just realize that? He said it, but he could not overpower one young attendant. Then who will protect you, Your Highness? The question stopped him completely. What? He looked up at her, and for a moment he was only 7 years old. That would be you, he said, pointing straight at her. You're my nanny, after all. He said it as though it settled every question in the world. Your Highness? What? Do you have some sort of problem with that? You should not rely on other people to protect you, she said. You must learn how to protect yourself. It was the only lesson she had ever fully trusted. He looked down at the carpet and something in his face closed over. Are you saying you won't protect me? Of course not, she said. As your nanny, protecting you is precisely my job. His head came back up. There you have it, he said, thoroughly vindicated. But I cannot remain at your side every hour of the day. Beside them, the princess yawned enormously. It's your bedtime now, Your Highness? No, what about the story? The hour is far too late. You said you'd tell me a story about a princess, Rachel. Instead, I shall send the head maid tomorrow. She knows far better stories than I do. Do you promise? Yes, of course. She had not asked Catherine yet. Sorry, Catherine. Sweet dreams, Leah. You too, Ed and Rachel. The lamps went out along the corridor. Later that night, the new head maid walked back through the palace humming to herself. And stopped because someone was still awake in a room where nobody should be. Lady Rachel, good morn. She got a proper look at her face. Good morning, Catherine. Did you not sleep well last night? You look completely exhausted. Yes, well, I didn't get very much sleep at all, the nanny admitted. If she ever meant to leave this palace and uncover the truth behind her death, she could not stop training. In her past life, she had been born into an athletic body built for exactly this work. The one she wore now was painfully ordinary, and training it was very slowly killing her. This won't do. Please go and get at least 30 minutes of sleep. A hand closed on her collar before she could argue. Pardon? Your eyes are out of focus. How will you look after the prince and princess in this condition? I will tend to them for now, so please go and rest. The girl was completely immovable. But, she began, and glanced toward the boy working through his breakfast. Where are you going? I'm not finished eating yet, he said around a mouthful. He looked up at her with a fork halfway to his mouth and waited for an answer. Your Highness, Lady Rachel didn't sleep well. Would you allow her a short break? I see. Even though she went to bed early without telling Leah a story? Fine, I'll allow it. Also, he added loftily, I can manage perfectly well without you. He was still holding yesterday's grudge. This petty little brat. Then I shall take a brief nap and return shortly, she said, and bowed. Yeah, go and rest, then hurry back. He did not look up when he said it. Behind her, Catherine was already offering second helpings and being enthusiastically accepted. But Your Highness, I see you haven't touched your vegetables again. That worked too. She was, the nanny thought on her way out, considerably better suited to this job. A quick nap, and then back to work. She let the door shut behind her. She would only be gone a moment. What could possibly go wrong in a single hour? Lady Rachel. Somebody was saying her name from a very long way off. Lady Rachel. She came off that couch before she was fully awake. Catherine? What's wrong? Why are you crying? Where are the prince and princess? The prince and the princess, Catherine said, and could not get the rest of it out. They have disappeared. The words landed in the room and simply stayed there. And for the first time since she woke in this body, the assassin felt her own heart drop. Earlier that afternoon, I'm Catherine Vale, eldest of House Vale's 4 sons and 3 daughters. I thought I was good with children, she had said. This is proving quite challenging. No! Why are you talking when you're a horse? 2 laps left. Now I understand your suffering. What kind of horse tires this fast? Rachel lasted 10 whole laps. Within the hour, none of them would be laughing. Ed, I'm thirsty. Oh my, it must be snack time. Shall we head back to the annex? I'll bake you a delicious apple pie. I'll eat it here. Bring it when it's ready. Pardon? She hesitated. She shouldn't leave them alone. I'll wait here with Leah, so hurry up. Are you defying a prince's command? His palm struck the ground. No, Your Highness. I'll bring it right away. Unlike the nanny, he thought, the headmaid actually listens to me. The moment she was out of sight, he stood up. Leah, let's go outside. But Catherine said to wait here. We'll be back soon. The pie will take a while anyway. You said you wanted to see the central garden again. Let's go there together. Okay. Even if those were His Highness's orders, Catherine sobbed, I should have refused them. Crying solves nothing. Why does something always happen the moment she looks away? Where did you last see them? This time, she thought, they are getting a proper scolding. In the central garden, among the roses, a small girl yawned enormously in the afternoon sun. Leah, are you sleepy? Because you keep patting my head. It was her usual nap time. Lie down next to me. It'll be more comfortable if you lean against me, he said. The nanny and the headmaid were probably panicking by now. Let's see how fast they find us. Sometime later, the princess surfaced from the grass with her hair completely wrecked. Ed? Leah is awake, she announced. Her brother went on sleeping soundly beside her. Something rustled in the flower bed. A cat, she breathed with total reverence. A black cat with yellow eyes stared back at her from among the roses. Where are you going, kitty? It bolted, and she went after it without a backward glance. Wait for me. I saw it come this way. Now where has it gone? Come out, kitty. I'll share some of Catherine's pie with you, she promised the hedge. Come with Leah and... Then something hissed, and it did not sound like an animal at play. Kitty! A stone went past her head. Just you wait. I'll hit it this time. Damn it, a boy's voice complained. I was so close that time. The cat keeps moving, so your stones keep missing. Guess I'll have to tie it tighter. The cat raked its claws across his hand, and he screamed. It was strung up in the branches. You dirty little cat? He drew back to throw something considerably heavier than a stone. Stop! Something small hit him hard in the side of the head. Quit bullying the kitty, you monster! A hand closed around her arm and she bit it. What the? Who is this kid? One of them demanded, shaking out his fingers. She's practically a baby. Is she from the palace? Her clothes were not a servant's clothes. Stop standing around and help me. Why is this brat so unbelievably strong? What exactly is going on here? Every one of them straightened up at once. A young man came through the trees, unhurried, with 2 attendants trailing behind him. Why has the game stopped? Prince Lloyd, one of them said. Lloyd Catalonian Ventrum, the second prince. Who's that? She jumped out of the bushes and interrupted us. She doesn't look like a commoner. He said, and crouched down to look at the small, furious girl properly. Then he laughed out loud. I was wondering why she looked so familiar to me. She looks exactly like that stupid brat. Behind him, his attendants went quiet and still. Bring her here. Yes, Your Highness. Hands closed on both of her arms at once. The boy who once sealed her brother inside a crate was smiling down at her. So who saves a princess when the monster is a prince? They hung the 3-year-old princess upside down from a rope and argued about whether she counted as a person. Then the second prince took the bow himself, smiling, and drew it back on a child. Boiling tea went over her brother's hands, and a boot put him face down in the dirt. I went easy on you because you're young. The fist came down again, and nobody moved to stop it. An hour earlier, the third prince had been asleep in the grass, and the afternoon had seemed entirely safe. I slept longer than I meant to, he thought, rubbing his eyes. We should probably head back now. He turned to wake his sister, and the patch of flattened grass beside him was empty. Leah? He stood up far too fast, and his heart went straight into his throat. Where could she have gone in the time he dozed off? Answer me if you can hear me. Prince Edwin? Did you see where Amelia went? Her Highness went that way, a man said, pointing. Thanks. He ran. He should never have taken his eyes off her, not for 1 minute. Then he heard her crying somewhere ahead of him, and he ran considerably faster. Well, what are you waiting for? Aren't you going to shoot? He knew that voice. Your Highness, one of them said uneasily, don't you think this is a bit? What? She's no different from that cat earlier, but she's a person, the boy protested. She has to act like a person to be treated as one. I can't do this, the boy said. If you can't, hand it over. The bow was taken out of his hands without ceremony. No! Edwin hit him at a full run, and the arrow went wide into the roses. Leah, are you all right? He got her down and pulled the rope off her wrists. Ed! She grabbed a fistful of his collar and would not let go of it. Well, look who it is. The boy behind them dusted himself off without any hurry. Long time no see, Edwin. Lloyd smiled and rested the bow across his shoulder. A second later, Edwin thought, and Leah would have been badly hurt. Hello, Lloyd, he managed. What brings you all the way out here? I came looking for my sister, Lloyd said entirely pleasantly. He looked around the garden as though genuinely searching for someone. Oh, so that noisy little girl was your sister after all? I thought she was the kitten of that stray cat. Her hair is the same color, you see. My apologies, I didn't realize. Behind him, his attendants were openly laughing. Get up already. You're a prince, so have some dignity in front of the servants. Edwin stayed on his knees in the grass with his sister behind him, and did not get up. Ed, teach that bully a lesson. He tied Leah up with a rope and tried to hit her. Leah, that's... He could not protect her from Lloyd. He had never been able to. Because he was weak. It was the only thing about himself he was completely certain of. Bring us some tea, Lloyd called to his attendants. I shall give it to the princess as an apology, he said, and everyone understood him perfectly. Here, take this. He held out the cup with 2 fingers. No, I don't want it. The princess had inherited every ounce of her family's stubbornness. Amelia, take it. If you don't give in now, he'll only find worse ways to hurt you later. He tied me up and shot arrows at me. Even so, please, now is not the time for anger. Fine, she said, and put both small hands out flat. Good girl, you should accept a gift with your hands. Then he began to pour. His laughter carried across the whole garden while his attendants watched their own feet. Trying to protect your little sister, Runt? How is someone like you a prince of equal standing? I'm only letting you off with a warning this time. Remember that. You, Edwin said, and could not finish the sentence for the shaking. You evil bully! The princess sank her teeth into the nearest available hand. You filthy little brat! He shook her off and his face went a dangerous color. Edwin got up off the ground with blood on his mouth and did not look away from him. If only Mother had lived long enough to protect them. If only. If only he had brought the medicine in time to save Emma. If only. If only there were one single person left in this world who could protect him. No, if only he himself were strong enough to stand up to Lloyd, he charged. I know why you hate me, he shouted, hitting him, but my sister did nothing to you. You insolent brat. One blow put him back down flat in the grass. Fine, Lloyd said, straightening his cuffs. Then I'll teach you something useful. Exactly how worthless and pathetic you really are. He drew his fist back. That's enough. Something caught his wrist in midair. Who are you? Let go of me. Why are you so strong? He pulled, twice, and his arm did not move at all. Rachel, Edwin breathed, from the grass. The nanny had arrived. Princess Amelia! Prince Edwin! Catherine came running behind her. Good heavens, what happened? You're hurt! Catherine! The princess launched herself at the head maid and howled. Who are you? Do you have any idea at all who I am? She glanced at him. Lloyd Catalonian Ventrum, second prince of the Ventrum Empire. Aside from the color of his hair and eyes, he did not resemble the emperor in the slightest. You damn wench, a knight bellowed. Let go of His Highness's hand this instant. She let go. Lloyd staggered back several steps and had to be caught. I'm fine, he snapped, shoving the man off. She was already walking past him. Are you all right? How did you? Edwin stared up at her from the ground. We can discuss that later. There is a problem we must resolve first. You insolent wench! Kneel at once and beg His Highness for forgiveness. My apologies. As the third prince's nanny, I could not simply stand and watch. Forgive me. Edwin, if you needed a dog to bark for you, you should have chosen a cleverer one. Since I cannot punish the master, Lloyd said, the dog will be punished in his place. She laid hands on a prince and pushed me. That is an insult to the imperial family. Cut off her hands. No, stop! Edwin got in the way and a knight simply shoved him aside. The boy hit the ground, and the nanny's voice went up loud enough to carry across the gardens. Prince Lloyd, your knight laid hands on a prince without permission, and then he pushed him. He has insulted the imperial family, so please cut off his hands. What? He actually flinched. My rudeness was to stop a fight between brothers. That man shoved Prince Edwin without cause. She's not wrong, someone murmured. How dare a mere knight lay hands on a prince? Why are things turning out like this, the knight thought. At this rate, I take the fall. Only Prince Lloyd may judge my actions. The same goes for me, she said. Only Prince Edwin may judge mine. You have no right to speak on this issue at all. His hand went to his sword. I have had quite enough of your games. He drew it in the middle of the imperial gardens. The blade stopped dead against another one, held by a man nobody had heard arrive. You really shouldn't swing a sword around this carelessly inside the imperial palace. King Caden? Every attendant in the garden dropped to one knee at once. What brings you here? Lloyd's voice had lost a great deal of its confidence. I happened to be passing when I saw a lady being attacked by a thug. That man isn't a thug, he's my bodyguard. Really? He looked like a ruffian swinging at a woman. Before criticizing other people's servants, Your Highness, you might manage your own first. And perhaps fix that habit of severing hands over trivial matters. Have you forgotten who I am? Lloyd, why are you being rude to an honored guest? Father, what are you doing here? She had raised her voice on purpose to bring them this way. It had worked exactly as intended. Greetings, Your Majesty. The entire garden bowed as the Emperor came through the trees. Lloyd, why are you causing a disturbance inside my palace? That woman disrespected me, so I was about to punish her, he said. Far too fast. How exactly did she disrespect you? He hesitated. Never mind. I'll ask someone else. Rise, the Emperor said, and she stood out of her bow. She had just made an enemy of the second consort's whole house. Are you the woman who was shouting earlier? Yes, Your Majesty. You have a strong voice. I heard it from the far end of the path. My apologies, she said. You laid hands on the second prince to stop a quarrel, and that knight laid hands on the third. True? Your Majesty, that isn't fair, the knight burst out. I don't recall giving you permission to speak. The man went silent instantly. Yes, that is correct. So you're saying you are without fault and the knight is guilty? I never said that. I requested only that he be punished first, because his crime is the greater one. After all, Your Majesty, his offense was committed against your own son. The Emperor considered that for a long moment. You're right, he said. Take him to the execution grounds and sever one of his arms. Strip him of his knighthood as well. Your Majesty, this isn't fair. Prince Lloyd, please help me. Lloyd did not look at him once. As for you, your actions were rude, but your intent was to uphold the dignity of this family. Therefore, I will exempt you from punishment. But only this once, he said, and smiled at her in a way that was not entirely warm. I am truly grateful, Your Majesty. She bowed with one hand over her heart. Father, that woman grabbed my arm and shoved me. That's enough. I'll find you a new bodyguard. But do not embarrass yourself any further in front of our guest. Yes, Father, Lloyd said with his fist closed tight. Please excuse me. And he left. He's a prince, and yet he has real trouble controlling that temper of his. My apologies for the disturbance. Don't worry. Boys his age are often hot-blooded. Please don't be too angry with the second prince, said a voice beside her. It was him again. Just like the last time, she had not sensed him approaching at all. Not one footstep. Perhaps those rumors were not entirely false after all. 100 monsters, alone. It's quite warm today. Let us return to the palace and continue there. Yes, Your Majesty. She bowed as the two of them passed her, and then she caught something on the air. Jasmine. It was the scent of the soap she had used constantly before she died. That soap was sold at one small rural apothecary in this empire, so how did a foreign king smell of it? Your wits, he murmured as he passed, are quite as impressive as your wall climbing. Until next time. He walked on without looking back, and she stood perfectly still. Did that man know who she had been in her previous life? And if so, how long had he known? Does it hurt a lot, Your Highness? I'm okay. Rachel treated my boo-boo, so I'll be better soon. As I asked before, please be more careful from now on, Catherine. What will you do if something happens to them? I'm sorry. I should have been firmer. No, most of the blame is mine. I am their nanny. I should never have left their side. From now on, let's make sure it never happens again. Of course, never again. I'll go and check on Prince Edwin now, she said, picking up the tray. Please look after Princess Amelia. Bye, Rachel. Leave it to me. She knocked at his door. Your Highness, I'm coming in. Nothing. Why wasn't he answering? Thunder rolled somewhere beyond the windows. Your Highness? The room was dark, the curtains moving, and the bed had not been slept in. How's Amelia? I've just finished treating her. Was she hurt badly? Bruises, mostly. She'll recover quickly. You should have your own wounds treated, Your Highness. I'm fine. I saw the injury on your face earlier, she said, setting the tray down. Let me apply some ointment. I said it's fine. His arm swept the bottle off the table. It hit the floor and rolled. Didn't you hear me? Why do you keep? She caught his chin. You say you're fine, but your face says something else entirely. When you realize you've made a mistake, you should be angry at nobody but yourself. You made 2 mistakes today. You left the palace with the princess and no attendants. And you challenged someone stronger than you with no plan whatsoever. What was I supposed to do? Hide and watch like a coward? The weak must be cowardly. The weak must be cowardly in order to survive, she said. That is simply the arithmetic. Is that all that matters? What good is surviving if I'm treated worse than an insect? Then what should I have done? You should have begged the second prince for mercy. You held back when your sister was treated like an animal. So why be reckless at the very end? Right now, it would be better for you to live like a coward. His Majesty won't always be nearby. I'll leave you to rest now, she said, and picked up the fallen bottle. He watched her cross the room, and something in his face was working very hard at staying still. Wait, her hand stopped on the doorframe. How did you know what happened to Amelia? Were you there? Were you watching us the whole time? Yes, she said. Then why didn't you do something? You're my nanny. So why? His voice broke on the last word. He was a naive child in a palace made of schemes, promising to protect people as if it cost nothing. Because I was too weak to protect you, she said. Is that why you waited for father to be near? Yes, it was a cowardly choice, and I had no other option available to me. Remember this, Your Highness. While you remain weak, you cannot protect anything without becoming a coward. I heard what happened in the garden. I thought I told you not to associate with that brat. But Mother, Edwin's nanny, started it. Enough complaining about his nanny. You were fixated on the last one, so I personally got rid of her for you. Now you complain about this one. His Majesty says you failed to control your temper in front of Adamante's king, and you were caught doing it. I'm sorry, Mother, he said to the floor. The first prince is already proposing diplomatic strategy. You skipped your lessons today. Lloyd, I don't care if you kill cats or lowly servants. They are utterly insignificant to me. All you need to do, she said, is become the emperor. Everything else is permitted. Yes, Mother, he said. Somewhere behind them, a tall flask sat filled with something dark red. Lady Rachel, the head maid said the next morning, and could not manage the rest of the sentence. What do you mean you're resigning from your position? Why? What happened? This job simply isn't right for me. Won't you please reconsider? You've barely been here a month. That is exactly how long I planned to stay from the start. She needed to leave before she grew too attached to either of those children. And there was something she still had to do. Something she had died for. Her only goal in this life was revenge on Ian. Nothing else had ever been on the list. A month of duties done properly, and wages saved. All that remained was gathering information. I can't stay inside this palace any longer. If your mind is made up, I won't try to stop you. I wanted to work with you for a long time, Catherine said. What a genuine shame. But what about the prince and princess? They'll be heartbroken. Catherine, is that my concern now? Well then, I'll be on my way. She turned, and something small bolted down the corridor behind her. Oh dear, Catherine said, watching the princess vanish around a marble column. Ed, wake up. Leah, I'm tired. That's not important. Something really bad has happened. What is it? Rachel said she isn't going to be our nanny anymore. Not our nanny? Is she quitting her position? He sat up properly at that. What do we do? Leah likes Rachel. Leah doesn't want her to go anywhere. Just let her do whatever she wants, he said, and turned over to face the wall. Are you okay with her leaving, Ed? Whether she stays or goes, I don't care. You dummy. She hit him with a pillow hard enough to make a sound. Just watch. Leah is going to stop Rachel from leaving, and she meant every word of it. What is all this, Your Highness? These toys are mine, but I'm giving them all to you. I couldn't possibly take what belongs to you. No, take them. Take all of them. But you love these toys, Your Highness. This really isn't necessary at all. It's okay, the girl beamed. Leah likes Rachel more. She had no idea what that woman was actually planning to do. Yes, Your Highness, then you'll stay with Leah forever, won't you? Nobody can stay with you forever, Your Highness. The room went very quiet. The girl said, both hands still held out with a doll in them. No, Leah will stay with Rachel until she's a grandma. She flung both arms around her waist. I gave you everything I love, she said, into the fabric of her skirt. So you have to stay with me forever. Promise me right now. Hurry, promise you'll stay. The nanny looked down at her for a long moment. There, the girl said, scrawling on a paper. I signed my name. That makes it a promise. Princess Amelia. I do not make promises that I cannot keep, the nanny said, crouching to her level. My apologies. The girl's face went through several stages before it settled on one. I hate you, Rachel. The wail took the whole corridor with it. Your Highness, why are you crying? Catherine came running. Catherine, Rachel said. She said she won't stay with Leah. She's going to leave. What? That can't be right. Lady Rachel isn't going anywhere, isn't that right? You know I'm leaving, Catherine. Lady Rachel, I hate you, Rachel, the girl screamed. I hate everyone, and she ran. Princess Amelia is only a child. Did you really have to be that harsh with her? It's because she is a child that I have to be honest with her. Pardon? Children believe every promise an adult makes, without question. She picked the fallen doll up. And I have no wish to tell a lie that benefits nobody at all. Down the hall, the crying went on. Rachel, you idiot! The princess stamped her way across the carpet. You dummy! You doo-doo head! You big roach! You piece of seaweed! She had run out of real insults. Well, Leah doesn't need Rachel either. Humph. She folded her arms with total dignity. Because Leah has Ed. Ed, I'm back. She threw the bedroom door open. Nobody answered her. The room was quiet, and the shape under the blanket did not move. I said I'm back, she shook him. He mumbled something and did not open his eyes. Then she touched his forehead, and her whole face changed. Rachel. She was out of that room and down the corridor at a full sprint. Even if you throw a tantrum, my decision will not change, the nanny began. That's not it. The girl was out of breath and pulling at her hand. Something's wrong with Ed, and the nanny stopped arguing immediately. The boy was drenched in sweat, breathing badly, and had not woken when they said his name. It looks like a cold, but the fever is far too high. Rachel, is Ed going to die? People don't die that easily, Your Highness. Can you not say it more gently, Lady Rachel? Don't worry. Prince Edwin is ill now, but he will recover soon enough. Really? Of course, she said, and the princess breathed again. I'll go to the infirmary, Lady Rachel. Catherine was already reaching for the door. Please look after the prince and princess while I'm gone. A hand caught her wrist. No, the boy whispered without opening his eyes. Don't call a physician. Even if you do, they won't come. His hand fell back onto the blanket. Your Highness? Ed, don't die. He hasn't died. Why does His Highness not want a physician called? Well, Catherine said slowly, I don't know every detail. I was working in the annex then. But the previous nanny collapsed after drinking poisoned tea, and he ran to the infirmary himself. Every physician had been sent to the second prince's palace for his pneumonia and forbidden to leave. The nanny was never treated in time. She died not very long afterward. So that was what he meant. She died because of me. He had been carrying that for a year. Her resignation had not been processed yet, which meant she was still his nanny. I'll go to the infirmary myself, so please look after His Highness. No, I'll go, Catherine said. You'd be more used to the prince and princess here. She hesitated, but I am genuinely not good at nursing people. I'll leave them to you, Catherine. And she left at a pace that was not quite running. Which palace are you from, miss? The emblem on his robe said he was the one in charge here. I've come from the third prince's palace, she said. The third prince's palace, the old man repeated, and his tone changed very slightly. Yes, Prince Edwin is in critical condition. So please send him a physician. Oh dear, the man said, touching his own throat. All our physicians are out on calls, so I'm afraid that won't be possible. All of them. The second consort collapsed from her illness today. The infirmary is in a state of emergency. Liar. He was smiling and playing the good man, and he had not so much as blinked. Then please at least prepare medicine for His Highness. Of course. I can certainly do that. He has a high fever and a persistent cough. I'll prepare something at the apothecary. This way, please, he said, and led her down into the lower rooms. Greetings, Imperial Physician, the pharmacist said, bowing low over his bench. So he really was the one in charge. She watched glass touch glass and said nothing at all. Here it is, he said, setting the bottle down in front of her. She picked up a pen instead of the bottle. Why are you picking up a pen, miss? Then her hand closed around his throat and put him back against the shelves. You said every other physician was out on calls, didn't you? Which makes you and that pharmacist the only two people here. Yes, but why do you ask? There's something I'd like to test, she said, and shoved him down onto the floor. She poured the medicine into his mouth. That's quite a reaction for simple cold medicine. No, he choked. Then he began coughing in a way no cold medicine should ever cause. This was meant for His Highness, so I simply had you taste it first. Your reaction is strange. I may not know much about medicine, but I know a great deal about poison. Be honest with me now. Why exactly is there poison in this cold medicine? She pressed her heel down and waited. I didn't add any poison. And there is oleander in it as well, she said. He flinched hard. You know it. A poisonous plant of the eastern continent. Assassins coat their blades with it. Why are you doing this to me? Why did you try to kill Prince Edwin? Enough of this nonsense. I watched that pharmacist add oleander leaves myself. Are you still going to deny it? It wasn't me. That bastard did it on purpose. That's not true, the pharmacist cried. The imperial physician wrote the prescription himself. He told me to add 4 oleander leaves. 4 leaves. Enough to kill a child, quite possibly. Do you know who I am? I have served His Majesty for 10 years. So what? It would be interesting to see what happens when word gets out about this prescription. Who would believe a lowly maid? Then he gagged. The poison was beginning to work properly. You have no reason to kill a prince, she said. So somebody else told you to do it. Who was it? He was sweating through his robe now and his hands had started to shake. Was it the second consort? The name landed and his whole face gave the answer for him. What exactly did she ask you to do? Send the third prince to heaven if the chance arose. He had never asked to be born a prince, and what a difficult life he had waiting for him. You there, she said to the pharmacist. Give him the antidote. Yes, he stammered. Yes, of course. I'm warning you both. Never try to harm anyone from the third prince's palace again. Of course. And you'd better not tell a soul what happened here. Break that promise and I'll show you worse than dying. Now then, please prepare some proper cold medicine this time. Yes, of course, they scrambled. Back in the prince's room, a boy surfaced out of a fever and blinked at a shape by his bed. He turned his head with enormous effort and tried to focus on her face. Emma? He said. The name came out of him before he was awake enough to stop it. It's you, isn't it? The figure by the window said nothing at all. I'm sorry, Emma. If only I had been a prince with more power. I'm so sorry. What do you have to be sorry for? I hurt Amelia, just like I hurt you, Emma. He did not know who was really listening. And I froze in front of Lloyd again. What is happiness, Emma? I don't know what it is. That woman is leaving too. She said she was on my side. Why does everyone leave me behind? I'm scared, Emma, he said, to a woman who had been dead for a year. She started to stand up, and his hand shot out and caught her sleeve. No, don't go. Don't leave me all alone, Emma. His grip was hot with fever. Shh, she said, and closed her hand around his. I'm not going anywhere. Really? You won't leave? No, she said, and she found she meant it. Get some rest, Your Highness. Within a minute, he was asleep, still holding on. She had not wanted to believe it, but the Emma he spoke of was the Emma she had known. Why did it have to be you, of every woman in this empire? The last time they met, Emma said she was going home to her family. That had been a lie. Why are you making me regret the past now when there is nothing left to do about it? She had thought this boy was someone she could walk away from. That was no longer true. You've gone soft, Kyla, she muttered, watching two children eat breakfast in the sun. If the final wish you were saving was that I protect this prince, you were the last person I ever opened my heart to. So I have no choice but to do as you wish, even if it means putting off my revenge. She sat down beside the bed and stayed there. Wait, so you're really not quitting anymore? Catherine asked the next morning. Goodness, you made the right choice. You're suffocating me, the nanny said from inside the hug. Sorry, I'm just so happy that you aren't leaving after all. Let's keep working together from now on. Of course, the nanny said. They shook hands over it, which felt strangely formal for two women in an empty kitchen. But didn't you say you had something to take care of? Catherine asked. Will staying here affect that? You're not giving it up because of this job, are you? No, staying a nanny does not mean abandoning revenge. She would use this palace as a base. If Ian was still working inside the Assassin Guild, then he had resources she no longer had. Meeting him in this body would be suicide. Safer to work from behind the palace walls. Lady Rachel, have you told the prince and princess you're staying? Do I really need to? But I told them I was leaving, so announcing that I changed my mind is a little. Can't you simply tell them for me? Catherine's expression made the answer clear. What was it you told me before? She poked her squarely in the forehead. You said you were the kind of person who takes responsibility for her actions. Now go and share the good news with them, she said, and started pushing. Off you go, Lady Rachel. The nanny was propelled out of the kitchen entirely against her will. You can do it, Catherine called cheerfully through the window behind her. Right, she should take responsibility for her own actions. That was fair. She only hoped the prince would actually listen this time, which seemed unlikely. Can't Rachel play with us too, Ed? No, that woman will be gone tomorrow anyway. She's abandoning us. Knowing that, do you still want to play with her? But still. Don't worry, you've got me, Leah. But you're weak, Ed. He tilted his head. What? It's true. You always get beaten up by the bad guys, but Rachel always saves Leah. You little. He shoved her hard before he had decided to do it. Your Highness! The girl hit the grass and started howling. Ed pushed me! Why would he push the sister he adores? The nanny had never seen him do that before. What was that for, Your Highness? He did not answer her. He stood there with his head down, and tears were falling into the grass at his feet. I don't need you either! Then he ran, and he did not look back once. Goodness, what is going on? Did you say something to upset him again? No, I didn't. Please look after Princess Amelia for a moment, pardon? I'll go and get Prince Edwin, she said, in a tone that made Catherine step back. Then she was gone across the lawn faster than a woman in that dress ought to move. It looks more like hunting than fetching, Catherine murmured. Rachel's scary, the princess sniffled. She found him under the trees with his knees against his chest, still crying. What? Why did you follow me? If your nanny doesn't follow you, who exactly will? You're quitting anyway, so stop pretending to care about me. He would not look up. Who told you that? Amelia told me everything. Someday I will leave, but not right now. So you are leaving eventually, admit it. You hate working for a pathetic prince like me. Your Highness, do you remember what I told you before? She crouched down in the grass until she was below his eye level rather than above it. That a weak person can't protect anything without becoming a coward? Yes, I remember. Well, there is one way to protect everyone without ever becoming a coward. What's that? You can become stronger. Plenty of strong people are ruthless. None of them are cowards. They don't need to be. But yes. You are weak, exactly as your sister said. But that's all right, she said, because I am going to help you become stronger. Why? He stared at her with his face still wet. I thought you didn't care what happened to me. Because a promise is a promise, she said, and smiled at something he could not see. A promise? Who exactly did you make that promise with? Never mind that, she said. Some things were not his to carry yet. If it wasn't a proper promise, then make one with me instead. Promise you'll make me strong. And promise that you won't ever leave me again, he said, holding out one small hand. Very well. I promise not to leave your side, Your Highness. And she took it. Then something rustled in the hedge behind them, and both of them turned around. You're not leaving, Rachel? The princess stood there with her eyes enormous. No, I'm not. Really? You're staying with Leah? Her whole face came apart with relief. She hit her at knee height and clung on. I love you, Rachel. Leah, her brother said, fidgeting. Sorry for losing my temper earlier. He would not look directly at either of them while he said it. Normally, the princess announced with great dignity, "I would not forgive you. But since Rachel is here, I'll let it slide." "Really?" He sounded genuinely surprised. "But in return, you have to make me a flower ring and a flower crown." "Okay, right away." "You look exactly like a rabbit right now, Your Highness." "What?" The princess giggled. And for one whole afternoon in a garden nobody watched, everything felt entirely normal. "We're glad to have you back, Lady Rachel," Catherine said, and meant every word. Elsewhere, in a room with the curtains drawn, a woman asked how the third prince was doing. "Nothing out of the ordinary, Your Majesty." "Good. At least he isn't irritating me." "Oh, that reminds me. Did you look into that nanny?" The second consort folded her hands and waited. "Yes, Your Majesty. Her name is Rachel Brown, 21 years old, arrived a month ago. Adopted daughter of Count Brown, a countryside noble, hired on the previous nanny's recommendation." "So she had ties to the dead nanny?" "Yes. That nanny arranged the adoption when Rachel was an orphan." "The third prince's new nanny seems fairly decent," Countess Katrina said over wine. "What makes you say that? She's polite, she doesn't talk back. Above all, her eyes are dead." "Dead?" "Yes, Your Majesty. People with eyes like that care only about their own survival. They never go out of their way to do anything for anyone else," she said, and drank. Phelan had judged countless nobles, so she could hardly be wrong about a nanny. "Good work. You may leave now," the consort said, and the countess withdrew. Alone, the second consort sat at her desk and looked at nothing in particular for a while. She could do nothing while His Majesty had pardoned the woman. But there was no need to rush. "She is the adopted daughter of some backwater noble. Whatever she does, I hold her in my hand." Two figures on a checkered floor and thorns coming up through the smoke around them. Meanwhile, in the annex, somebody was staring at the nanny across a table. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Because the more she looked, the closer Catherine came to the truth. "Be honest with me, Lady Rachel." "You don't have any friends at all, do you?" The nanny visibly flinched. "It's not that I can't make friends, I simply choose not to. And what's wrong with friends?" "It's nice to open up and talk to people sometimes," Catherine said, entirely unbothered. "I want to be friends with you, Lady Rachel. You want to be friends with me? We're both 21, so it would be nice if we got along." "Wait, 21? She had known Rachel Brown was young. She had not realized she was 12 years younger than herself. "What's wrong?" "I was thinking about how young we are." "Young? Most women our age are married. If my father hadn't gambled away the family fortune, I'd be out hunting for a husband right now." Then Catherine went rigid and shot to her feet. "Oh, what's the matter?" "I completely forgot to bring Prince Edwin his snacks." The tray sat untouched on the sideboard. "You can simply give them to him after his lesson," the nanny said. "You don't need to bring me the snacks," said a voice from the doorway. "You should be in the middle of your lesson, Your Highness. Why are you here? My tutor quit." He said personal issues came up. He quit, but he was paid a month in advance last week. "Can't we simply find another tutor?" "One moment, Lady Rachel." Catherine leaned in close. Every well-educated noble they approached had already turned the position down. They barely managed to hire this one. They turned it down. Why on earth would they? Because they're all obsessed with climbing. A royal tutor's post is a step toward running the academy. "Do you need a tutor, Your Highness?" "Huh?" "Of course I do," he said, offended by the question. Finding someone qualified to teach a prince would not be easy. Scholarship and a spotless name. It would be impossible for a minor count's adopted daughter, but not for Kyla Angel. Not for the former guild master of the strongest assassin guild on the continent. "Then I will find one for you, Your Highness," she said, and walked out of the room. "Are you sure I'm allowed to come with you?" he whispered 2 nights later beside a cart. "You were the one who insisted, Your Highness." "When did I do that?" "I only said it would be unfair if you chose my tutor without me being there." "Sure, let's go with that story." She put a hand over his mouth and lifted him bodily. He made a series of extremely undignified noises against her palm. "Quiet down and get in. At this rate, the guards will hear us both." "Catherine will cover for me while I'm gone, right?" he asked from under a blanket. "Don't worry, Your Highness," she said, in a tone that should have worried him considerably. "I told her to spread word that you've been running between bedroom and bathroom all day. Couldn't you have chosen a less humiliating excuse?" The cart rolled out through the trees. "So where exactly are we going?" he asked, leaning over the rail. "We're heading to Luxon Village," she said, and did not explain any further than that. "Luxon Village," he repeated, and the light through the window went out of his face. "Wait, you don't mean that Luxon Village, do you?" A cold sweat started down the side of his neck before she answered. "Since when did the Empire have two villages named Luxon?" she asked mildly. He turned to look at her, and she did not appear to be joking in the slightest. "Nope, I'm not going. Let me off. Stop the carriage." Jumping from a moving carriage is dangerous. He fought her the whole way. In fairness, his terror was entirely reasonable. Because the village where his tutor lived was the Ventrum Empire's one and only plague village. "I can't believe we're going to Luxon. Does Catherine know?" "Yes, Catherine is also aware." "Are you really that frightened? Who wouldn't be? We could die there." Honestly, any citizen of the Empire would have reacted in exactly the same way. Luxon was where victims of the infectious scale disease were quarantined outside the capital. There was no cure. Survivors were left disfigured. People called it the Devil's Curse. The only treatment was long exposure to divine power, and priests capable of it were vanishingly rare, which meant only royalty could afford them, and every poor person who caught it simply died. "What if we catch scale disease too?" he demanded from somewhere near the floor of the carriage. "We'll be fine. How can you possibly be sure of that? Turn the carriage around." "Sit down, Your Highness. It's dangerous. Stop the carriage. Calm down, Your Highness." "We will not catch scale disease there," she said. "I know because I have been there before, and I was perfectly fine." He stopped struggling and stared at her. Her hand was still closed around his wrist. "What do you mean you've been there before?" And then the carriage stopped hard. He went off the seat and she caught him against her shoulder before he hit anything. "Are we already there?" "No," she said, looking at the door. "This is something else." Something struck the side of the carriage. "Come out while we're asking nicely." "We don't want to be rough with you either," a man laughed outside. There were several of them. "What do we do?" "Don't worry, Your Highness," she said and put her hand over his eyes. "I'll handle this." He was asleep before she finished lowering him to the floor. Then she stepped down onto the road, alone, and shut the carriage door behind her. "What's a woman like you doing out here with a child? You've got guts, lady." "Why so serious?" "Well, I don't mind women who play hard to get." "Makes breaking them all the more fun," he said and reached for her chin. "That's funny. I happen to enjoy breaking things as well." "What?" Her hand closed on his. The sound his wrist made carried into the trees. "My hand!" he screamed. "Breaking foolish men who don't know their place is genuinely satisfying," she said. "You little wench!" He swung at where she had been standing. "You're too." "Slow. Grab her. Kill her now. Do you still not understand your situation at all?" "If I were you," she said, "I would have started running some time ago." "She's too fast," one of them shouted. "Who the hell is this woman? Spare me." The trees took his voice and gave nothing back. Then it was quiet, and the last man was on his knees in the dirt, shaking. "You monster. It's been quite a while since anyone called me that," she said. "Don't worry, you're all alive. I grazed every vital, so stop the bleeding quickly. Who are you? You really want to know who I am?" She looked down at him for a moment. "I'm a nanny," she said, and then she left them there in the road. Sometime later, the prince woke up on the carriage floor with no idea how he got there. "Are you all right, Your Highness?" "I don't remember falling asleep. Don't you remember? The carriage stopped hard and you tumbled out with me. Why are your clothes stained?" "Mud from the ditch," she said. Fighting several men alone was still too much for this body. Normally, she would not have got a single stain on her clothes. He said. "I see." Then the carriage came over a rise and the village was there below them. "Wait, what happened to my arm? Have I caught scale disease already?" "My apologies, but it was the only way in. It's plaster mixed with water and sealed with resin." "That's a relief, but why are you dressed like that?" "Ordinary people cannot come here at all," she said, adjusting the pale robe. "Priests and physicians visit to give aid, so I dressed accordingly. You are an infected young priest. The person who will be your tutor is deeper inside the village, so we walk from here." They walked. Nobody looked at them twice. "We've arrived," she said eventually. "This is where my future tutor lives." He stared at the door. "Yes, at least for now. They are notoriously difficult, so there's a fair chance we'll be thrown out immediately." "What do we do then? What if they don't like me?" He was fidgeting again. "Don't worry, Your Highness," she said. "Even if they don't, I intend to take them back to the palace regardless." He looked up at her and decided not to ask exactly what that meant. "Judging by that mark," she said, studying the door, "it seems he isn't dead yet." "A yellow cross means a death," she said. And behind this particular door was the part of her past she had buried. Then the man here is dead too. No, in this case, it's the reverse of the usual code. Here, a yellow cross means alive and a red one means dead. He's using it to keep people away. She stepped up to the door and the boy stayed close behind her shoulder. Beyond this door, she thought, lies Kyla Angel's past. She had not planned on opening it. Other than Ian, she had wanted to meet nobody at all from her old life. Especially nobody who could become a weakness. Death had cut this thread. It had found her anyway. "Why are you just standing there?" the prince asked, tugging at her sleeve. Well, it was far too late to turn back now. She raised her fist and hit the door. She had a promise to keep to Prince Edwin, and this was how it got kept. "Maybe they've gone out," he said. "Nobody's answering, even after all that knocking." "No, he's definitely inside. Is the man who lives here really that impressive?" "He is the smartest person on this continent, and people hated him for it. God damn it." The door came open. "Do you have a death wish?" "Who the hell are you two? Are you here to beg for food?" She put a hand over the prince's head protectively. "You knocked on my door, so why aren't you speaking? If you've no business, get lost." "Viscount Sagerill," she said. "I've come to collect the debt you owe for your life. Shall I live as my past self, Kyla Angel, just for today?" The old man went completely still. There was an unwritten rule that commoners could never become professors in the Empire. 40 years ago, a scholar broke it and mastered literature, history, politics, philosophy, medicine. Through envy and ridicule, he established the Empire's entire relief system for the lower classes. And they called him the Great Sage, Sagerill. "How do you know that name?" the old man said, pointing at her with a shaking finger. "No, how do you know what she said to me? Let us in first. Then we can talk properly." "Are you joking? I don't know who you are. My companion is exhausted from the journey." He made a noise like a kettle deciding whether to boil. "Get inside then. Hurry before I change my mind about all of this." The prince beamed. Inside, the old man shut the door and turned on them. "Now talk." "Who the hell are you two? That damn woman sent you, didn't she? So what does she want in exchange for saving my life?" He was already answering himself. "I know I seem suspy. Of course you're suspicious," he snapped. "But that woman would never reveal my location to a stranger, so she must have trusted you." Still answering his own questions, she thought. "In that case, let me get straight to the point. I want you to become a teacher." "Right, a teacher? Wait, a teacher? Didn't she tell you? The moment I leave this place, I could very easily be killed." "I'm aware. You've earned the hatred of every major trading company in the Empire. But don't concern yourself with that. You'll be going to the safest place in the entire Empire." "There is no such place. Don't be ridicule." "The Imperial Palace," she said. He stopped mid-word and stared at her. "Then the person I'd be teaching must be a prince or something. How perceptive of you." "You know," he said slowly, "you remind me of Kyla. You have the same arrogant green eyes, and the same annoying way of speaking." She smiled at that and did not correct him about any part of it. "How did I end up making a deal with that wicked woman?" "Still, a palace post might not be bad." "But this boy looks far too naive to be a prince," he said, examining him. "How did you know?" the prince blurted, and immediately looked as though he wanted it back. "By looking at your clothes," the old man said, pointing. "Isn't that Asha silk? Impossible to obtain unless you're royalty. And what is that plaster?" "Very well. All I have to do is teach this boy. Is that correct?" "Yes," she said. "But I have no intention of taking just anyone as my pupil." "A prince isn't just anyone." "Well, that depends on what kind of prince he is, doesn't it? Frankly, I could repay that debt with my own life and be done with it. Still, teaching one more pupil before I die might not be so bad. Then let us depart at once." "Like I said," he interrupted, "I won't take just anyone as a pupil. So prove yourself worthy, little prince. Show me you aren't just anyone. Viscount Rill, have you forgotten your deal with Guildmaster Kyla? You are obliged to repay at any time without conditions. I don't mind paying with my life." "How can I prove it?" the prince said suddenly. "How can I become your pupil, sir?" "No," he corrected himself, straightening up. "Viscount Rill?" The old man turned and looked at him properly for the first time. Then he threw his head back and roared with laughter. "So, little prince, how old are you?" 12, the boy said. "Ah, you're at the age when the brain finally begins working at all. But I'm not particularly fond of the clever ones, huh? Why not?" "Because however clever they grow up to be, they'll still be dumber than me. That's why I don't care very much about what's in here," he said. He tapped the boy's forehead once with one finger. "What's in here matters considerably more," he said, and rested a hand on his chest. Leo, get over here." His shout carried out through the back of the house. What is it? I've still got a great deal of firewood to chop. This is Leo. He's around your age, more or less. You could say he's my assistant. Who's the kid? Leo asked, hatchet in hand. Take him with you and gather some rocks, and check on the villagers while you're out. Fine, Leo sighed and turned for the door without waiting. What are you waiting for? Aren't you coming? Didn't you hear what he said? If you don't hurry, I'm leaving without you. Wait for me. And the prince ran after him. I'll judge the young prince's character later, the old man said once the door shut. First you travel here without a single bodyguard, and now you let him wander off alone. You're no ordinary attendant, are you? Unfortunately, I'm perfectly sane, Viscount Rill. I'm not asking about your sanity. How exactly do you know Kyla? She let the question sit in the room for a while before she answered it at all. We were close for a very long time. So the two of you were friends then? Something like that. Liar. Since when did that woman have any friends? Even I don't have any. Whether you believe it or not is entirely up to you, she said. I'm only here because Kyla told me about you. Nothing more complicated than that. Is Kyla alive? She isn't dead, so don't worry. Her body is gone, but her soul is well. That ungrateful woman, after dumping me in a place like this, she could show her face occasionally. Not one message in 4 years. Then he stopped. Do you wish to see Kyla? The world outside had long forgotten Sage Rill. Kyla had not. Funny, isn't it? She came to kill me. And she was the only person left out there who still remembered I existed. Why must I die? He had shouted at her that night, 40 years of work behind him. When I am finally on the verge of saving countless lives, take it up with the man who hired me. Spare me, assassin. Why should I? She had asked, entirely without malice. I can tell by looking at your eyes that you were never meant to be an assassin. So spare me. Didn't you want to save lives instead of taking them? Now that His Highness and I both know you exist, Kyla is no longer the only one who remembers you. And if you come to the Imperial Palace, a great many more people will remember you. Now, the old man said, don't get ahead of yourself. If the young prince fails my test, I won't be going anywhere at all. What do you mean? This may well be the last pupil I ever take. So I cannot accept just anyone. Outside, meanwhile, 2 boys walked through the ruins. Everyone made this place sound like hell on earth, Edwin thought. Leo, take this bread to the old man. Everyone here looks happier than me, and I live at the Imperial Palace. He would understand why before nightfall. Hey, Leo said once the villagers had finished waving at him. You're wearing expensive silk. Are you a noble or something? You don't have to say why you're here. More importantly, wipe that dirt off your arms. Do I have to chop firewood too? No, Leo said and pushed open a different door. Our job today is caring for the critically ill patients, he said, and went inside. Here, clean his arm, the prince gagged. Actually, why don't you? Why don't you go and clean over there instead? Okay, the boy said, taking the basin. How could Leo handle those people like it was nothing? All Edwin knew was reading and writing. And here that was completely useless. So what made him different from anyone in this village? He was powerless, and there was nothing at all he could actually do. Hey, are you okay? Leo asked later, when he had sat down on the stones. Yes. Sorry I wasn't much help today, the prince said to his own knees. In the end, I couldn't do what you asked. All I did was get in the way. Leo laughed. Yeah, you did. I'm guessing you've had a pretty comfortable life up until now. Still, you were surprisingly good at cleaning. If you can do one thing properly, that's enough. So don't apologize. You were plenty helpful. At first, I thought you were a rich merchant's son. Someone like that could have actual business with the old man, he explained. What do you mean? Isn't it obvious? I thought you came to buy the formula for Sage's medicine. You came all this way looking for Sage and you don't even know? Leo stared at him. Rachel only said he was the smartest man on the continent. Well, I suppose that might be true. Sage is the man who developed the cure for scale disease, after all. What? The word came out of the prince considerably louder than he intended. That's impossible. I thought scale disease could only be treated with divine power, he said. Maybe that's why they call him a sage. Then why are the people here still infected? The medicine needs one ingredient, and it's only found in the Holy Empire. Then why not simply buy it from them? You know, we're not in a position to do that. Does this cure really exist? You're not lying? Why would I lie about something like that? I'm alive myself thanks to the old man's medicine, Leo said. What? But you just said he can't make any more of it. He managed to make some before he came here. Leo said, looking at his hands. I drank the last bottle. If you only need an ingredient, why not ask the Imperial family? Ventrum and the Holy Empire are on decent terms. Like the Imperial family would help us. They never sent one priest to this village. Come on, last errand, then we head back. Gather the stones with a bluish sheen on the surface, Leo said, in the dark. Like this one. He held it up and it lit his whole face pale blue. What kind of stone is it? The prince asked, taking it carefully. It's a mana stone, Leo said, and handed him a pick. Mana stones held magic and were used to make magical tools, and the Empire's mines were rare. Do the villagers know there's a mine here? Sage and I found it. Nobody else knows. I'll dig this side of the wall. You take the other side, Leo said. Why does Viscount Rill need mana stones? He's a sage, not a mage. Dunno, I do what he says. But aren't you curious? What if he's secretly working with the Imperial family? Not really. Even if he is, it has nothing to do with commoners like us. Now dig. Oh, right. Sorry, the prince said and picked up the pick again. Hey, Edwin, Leo said, after a while of steady digging. This is just how I normally speak. I'm not trying to be mean, so quit apologizing for everything. You've got nothing to be sorry for. Okay, the prince said instead and grinned at a wall of rock. Looks like we've got enough. Let's head out now, Leo said, shouldering the sack. Does this mean I passed the test? Test? What test? Viscount Rill said I had to prove I wasn't just anybody. Then something moved behind Leo. It hit him before either of them saw it properly and threw him across the tunnel. He landed hard on the stone with the axe still in one hand. Are you okay? Damn it, Leo said through his teeth. I blocked it with the axe, so it isn't deep. Not that deep? You're bleeding. That looks like poison. What do we do? The wound was already turning colors it should not. Keep it down, will you? That isn't what matters right now. Look at that thing. It's a mutant monster, Leo said. Red eyes came up out of the dark of the tunnel. The old man and the villagers burned one to death a few months ago, but this is a quarantine zone. People can't get in here, so how did that thing? Through the fence near the mountains? Am I going to die here? The prince thought. Will I become food for that thing? No, now is not the time to think about this. Rachel isn't here. He had to find a solution. Right now, he was the only person who could help himself. What did the books say about monsters? Right. They're drawn to mana stones. They gather at them. Which meant that thing considered this mine its territory. In that case. Edwin? I'll distract the monster while you run away, the prince said. Your legs are fine, aren't they? What? If we both stay here, we both die. Get back to the village and bring Rachel while I keep it busy. Then you go. I'll distract it. But you were poisoned. You might collapse while it chases you. The people in this village need you, so you have to live. Don't worry, I'm good at running away. He looked down at his own hands for a moment and found they had stopped shaking. Hey, you ugly monster! His voice cracked in the middle of it, and he shouted anyway. I'm taking this stone. Have you got a problem with that? The tunnel filled with a roar. No, it's too dangerous. Leo tried to get up, and his leg would not hold him. Edwin! The boy was already running, with the stone in his fist and the dark closing behind him. It came at him out of a side passage, and he threw himself flat and kept going. Please, you have to help me. Emma's really sick. I'm sorry, Your Highness. There isn't a single physician we can spare. This time, he thought, running. This time is different. This time I can actually help. Then something enormous landed in the passage ahead of him. Is this how I die? Alone, where nobody knows me without leaving so much as a trace? So prove yourself worthy, little prince. Show me that you are not just anyone. I'm no prince. I'm nobody. I have never once been able to help anybody at all. Remember this, Your Highness. You cannot protect anything without becoming a coward. Rachel was right, he thought, as the thing came down at him. He put both fists over his eyes because there was nothing else left to do. Rachel! The name came out of him at the top of his lungs. Something crossed the tunnel faster than the monster did, and the monster went sideways into rock. Rachel? He lowered his hands. There was blood in the air, and she was standing in front of him. We'll talk later, after I deal with this. Then she went at it with a blade in each hand. Its hide is tougher than expected, she noted. Then I'll simply keep stabbing until I cut through. It's like watching two monsters fight, the prince thought, from the floor. She moved so fast the tunnel walls blurred behind her. And then it was over, and the thing did not get up again. Rachel, how did you? He was still sitting where she had left him. How do you think I got here? I ran. No, that wasn't what I was going to ask. There was no way to tell him the truth. How does one explain running an assassin guild to a child? Before that, she said, I need to punish you. She smacked him. Ouch. How could you lure a monster away yourself? Did you truly think you were capable of that? On reflection, calling it luring gives you too much credit. Is your one life worth so little? He sat with his head down and did not defend himself because he still believed every disaster began with him. Why aren't you saying anything? You have a mouth, don't you? I don't understand why you're so angry, he said finally. I wanted to help too. Everything always goes wrong because of me, so I wanted to be useful for once. I did think it through. I met Leo on the way here. He was in tears, terrified something had happened to you. He said you told him to save himself because the villagers needed him, but not you. She let out a long breath and crouched down in front of him. You said you didn't understand why I'm angry, Your Highness. I am angry because you keep blaming yourself for everything. She put her hand flat against his in the dust and left it there. Not everything that has happened to you is your fault, but there are no buts, Your Highness. The only thing you did wrong today was being reckless. Do you understand me? He nodded once without lifting his head very far. She had been harsh with him over the Lloyd business. Back then, she was leaving. Things had changed. Rachel, he said, do you think I could ever become strong like you? She looked at him for a long moment before she said anything at all. Once we are back at the palace, she said, I will help you gain the power to choose everything for yourself. What do you mean? He was on his feet now, holding her hand without noticing it. I'm saying I will make you stronger than anyone else alive, Your Highness. Well, you're both still alive, aren't you? The old man observed when they got back. For someone who deliberately put a child in danger, you seem remarkably unrepentant. Anyway, have you found the answer to my question, little prince? Perhaps we should find someone else. I've been thinking about it, the prince said, and I still don't understand just anyone. But if you mean somebody unlike everyone else, then I don't think I can be your student. I'm sorry. Are you not a prince of this nation? The old man asked, hands behind his back. Why would someone like you think he's ordinary? I was no different from the people in that village. You weren't? Everyone there had something they could do, and they were doing it. I couldn't. When I faced that monster earlier, I finally understood something. That I'm a powerless, ordinary child who can't do anything at all. What did you say your name was? Edwin Anaxinian Ventrum, sir. Edwin means the conqueror. They certainly gave a bumbling child like you a mighty name. And he laughed so hard he had to hold on to his own coat. You're not bad for a little runt. Not bad? The boy blinked up at him. Even old men rarely work out that they're nothing special. That's exactly why I like you, little prince, he said, and clapped him on the shoulder. Did you think about anything else when you saw the villagers? Well, I felt a little sad. Why? They're only sick, but once they die, nothing of them will remain. Nobody will remember them at all. Yes, the old man said. I thought the same. That's why I struggled to the very end. I developed the first cure 10 years ago. Then why hide that you'd done it? It's an incredible achievement. Which is exactly why he ended up with more enemies, the nanny said. What? Why? Once I finished the medicine, the great trading companies came flocking first. They wanted to buy the formula and monopolize it. I refused. I meant to distribute it free. But one of the merchants tipped off the Holy Empire about what I had done. They sent delegates and threatened to sever all ties, purely over the blasphemy of it. A disease their priests healed with divine power, cured by a mere human's medicine. Their pride couldn't hold it. So His Majesty rejected my proposal, and after that, my life became hell. Paladins from the Holy Empire and assassins from everywhere else. I did nothing but run. And then, just as I was about to give up on all of it, I met Kyla. Without the deal she offered me, I'd have been dead years ago. What deal? In exchange for shaking off my pursuers, she said she would collect the price of my life one day. That was our arrangement, he said, and then his eyes narrowed. So where the hell is Kyla now, and what exactly is she up to? Pardon? She said, in a tone that did not encourage further questions. Rachel, the prince said, you said you came to collect the price of Lord Sage's life. Do you happen to know someone named Kyla? He was watching her rather carefully. No, I don't, she said. Are you sure? You ran out earlier while we were discussing that very thing. Is that girl still going around butchering people? The old man asked cheerfully. Butchering? How could you say something so crude in front of His Highness? I feel sorry for her. Let's stop talking and get back to the palace. We must leave before sunset. What's the rush? I need to pack my things and give the people my medicine first. You mean the cure? But Leo said you couldn't make it anymore. It isn't a permanent cure. Given gradually, it halts the disease. It leaves scars, but they live. I'll distribute it instead, so hurry up and leave, old man, said a voice from the doorway. Leo, the prince said, and got to his feet without meaning to. I need to talk to you for a moment. He took hold of the prince's sleeve and pulled. Should we follow them? I'm sure they'll be fine. Go and pack your things. Who told you to do something so insane? What if you died trying to save me? If I hadn't, we'd both have died. Who asked you to save me? Leo's voice cracked. Did you think I'd get on with my life as though nothing had happened, if you died? The prince stood there in the rain and let him shout the whole thing out. Thanks, he said when Leo finally stopped. Huh? Leo wiped his own face roughly. I did survive because of you. Really? Why would I thank you if I didn't mean it? Here, take these. They're the mana stones you mined today. You want me to take all of these? Are you sure? The sack was extremely heavy. You mined them, so they're yours. They're worthless in this village anyway. Hey, Leo. Yes? Do you want to come with me? The prince asked, and the rain kept falling. Leo looked at him for a long moment, and then he pulled him into a rough hug. No, I'm going to stay here. Why? The prince asked into his shoulder. What do you mean, why? You told me the reason yourself earlier today. You said I had to live because this village needs me. And I think you were right. If I leave with the old man, this whole place falls apart. So go with Sage and do your best to change things. Then one day I can come and see you myself. Okay, the prince said. It came out steadier than he expected it to. The cart went out through the trees that evening with 3 passengers instead of 2. He kept fidgeting with the edge of the bench, and she noticed and said nothing yet. Aren't you going to sleep, Your Highness? He yawned enormously in answer. Teacher snores far too loudly. I can't sleep at all, he complained. Shall I tie him to the back of the cart and drag him? You're joking. I am always serious, Your Highness. He stared at her in the dark, entirely unable to tell whether that was true. Hey, he said eventually, what would I have to do to make it possible for Leo to visit me? There is only one way. You must get rid of the plague village. No, that's Leo's hometown. Your Highness, that place is not his hometown nor anybody else's. What do you mean? A prison cannot be anyone's home, she said. Then how do I get rid of it? Why do you ask? No reason. I was only curious. He had made Leo some kind of promise, she thought. That much was obvious. There are 2 ways to get rid of the plague village. Both are impossible. Release the cure and Ventrum goes to war. Release the people and the Empire riots. I see, he said. What is going on in that little head of his now? I'll pick up the pace. She had provided one of the things the prince needed. A teacher delivered. The rest, she thought, watching the road, she should be able to handle on her own. You said you had nothing, but you live in a nice place. Nobody in that hall knew a killer had just walked in with them. Lady Rachel, you said you'd find a tutor. So why did you bring back a pauper instead? Please don't touch that. It doesn't look that expensive anyway, the old man said, and touched it. Who are you, old man? A small blonde head appeared around the door frame. Who's this pup? He asked, looking down at her. What? Leah is not a puppy. Leah is a person. But you look exactly like a little mongrel. Or should I call you a golden retriever? No. Leah is a person and a princess. Oh ho, so you're the first princess. Amelia Luciventrum. He crouched down to her height and pointed at her nose with one gnarled finger. How dare you say Her Highness's name so casually? Show some respect, Catherine spluttered. What, can't I say a child's name out loud? You're so cold. What did you just say? Right. Nice to meet you, little princess. He picked her clean off the floor. Just call me Gramps, understood? She stared up at him with enormous consideration. Then she grabbed his beard and announced that it was a cloud. Leah wants to eat the cloud. You little brat. Don't put my beard in your mouth. Lady Rachel, Catherine said faintly, from somewhere behind all of that. Who on earth is that elderly gentleman? He is Prince Edwin's new tutor. He doesn't look like a noble. Have you ever heard of the great scholar named Sage Rill? Catherine's eyes went round. You mean the great sage? Of course I have. Everyone has heard of him. I heard he vanished one day and was never seen again anywhere. Well, that man, the nanny said, gesturing at the wrestling match on the carpet. That man is a distant relative of the great sage. Telling her he was the great sage himself would get out of hand, so a small lie would do. What? Really? Catherine looked back at the old man with entirely new eyes. This isn't widely known, the nanny continued, without a flicker. But the great sage's relatives are also considered geniuses, and that man is one of them. Is that so? But isn't Viscount Rill a criminal with wanted posters across the continent? Yes. However, he's been declared missing, so I doubt anyone is still chasing him. Is it all right to keep a criminal's relative here? And nobody knows where the sage is. So how on earth did you find a relative of his and bring him here, Lady Rachel? You see, she said, the great sage is a close friend of my adoptive parents. And he asked me personally. He asked me to help this poor old man who has been hunted for over 10 years. Purely because he happens to share the same blood. Behind her, the princess was asleep on his chest. I understand. Then I suppose we have no choice, Catherine sighed. Thank you, Catherine. But how should we introduce him to everybody else? If he's going to be Prince Edwin's tutor, we need to be able to say who he is. The founding festival is coming up. We'll say he's a gardener hired to prepare the grounds. Are you really going to make an old man like me do hard labor? Prince Edwin's lesson is in 30 minutes, so please finish your work before then. Oh, all right. You don't do your own job properly, yet you always nag me, he grumbled and went outside. Oh, Lady Rachel. The King of Adamante left a gift for Prince Edwin before departing. The King of Adamante left His Highness a gift? Both women looked at the box. He said he was sorry for not visiting while His Highness was ill. Why would a foreign king care? It was gold, finely worked, with a clear stone set into the front that held its own faint light. Is this it? Yes. I think you should check the contents first, Lady Rachel. She put her hand on the lid, and something in her had already gone very still. Only one person alive could have known what belonged in that box. So who are you really, King Caden?